Chapter 688, Unfathomable Ancestor Within the Wuxia Dojo. At dusk, Guwen was carving a wooden figure in the courtyard, Shenzhen was cultivating in front of the artifact refining cauldron, and Zizai was pondering deeply atop the courtyard wall, as the twilight glow cast an aura of tranquility and harmony over the entire courtyard. Suddenly, Guwen slightly raised his eyebrows. He sensed that Blood Prison Great Saint and Fang Xian had been captured, and the threads of destiny suddenly became blurred. Celestial Court. Only the Celestial Court could make destiny appear this obscure. Fortunately, the Blood Prison Great Saint and Fang Xian carried the destiny of the primordial Tao Emperor, allowing him to track their whereabouts. Guwen began tracing their trail through the destiny of the primordial Tao Emperor and saw the plight of Blood Prison Great Saint and Fang Xian. Guwen suddenly thought of the Divine Court within the Taiwei Great World. The Divine Court was also aiding the immortal gods in capturing creatures, tossing them into a furnace, and now the same fate befell Blood Prison Great Saint and Fang Xian. Could it be that these immortal gods were preparing for the Celestial Emperor's struggle? Guwen stood up, stretched lazily. He looked at Zizai and suddenly had an idea. No matter what, Zizai, being the eldest disciple among the third-generation disciples of Wuxia, must eventually possess the ability and insight to stand on his own. Currently, Zizai severely lacks insight, even considering the free immortal realm as the highest stage of immortal cultivation. Zizai, I'm planning to go out and have a look. There might be battles involved. Would you like to come and see? Guwen spoke, and as soon as he said this, Zizai turned his head towards him with an expression of interest. Not only him, but even Shenzhen looked at Guwen, eyes full of curiosity. Ancestor, I'm afraid I will drag you down. Zizai wanted to go, but recalling his previous experiences of external training made him hesitant. Guwen smiled and said, No worries, you won't need to act. Such an opportunity is rare. Think about it carefully. Hearing this, Zizai fell silent while Shenzhen spoke. Your ancestor wants to broaden your horizons. You are the first third-generation disciple of Wuxia, and you will surely have many junior brothers and sisters in the future. Do you think you are qualified to be the eldest disciple in your current state? Her words were not pleasant, tinged with a shade of mockery, but they did not anger Zizai. Zizai took a deep breath, finding reason in Shenzhen's words. He gave Shenzhen a grateful look, then said to Guwen, Ancestor, I am willing to go with you. Guwen immediately waved his sleeve, and Zizai felt a strong wind rush towards him, instinctively closing his eyes. Then Zizai could not open his eyes, only feeling himself falling, unable to extend his divine sense, which instinctively made him feel tense. After a while, Zizai felt his feet touch the ground, and instinctively opened his eyes to see Guwen's back. Seeing his ancestor before him, he breathed a sigh of relief. Without speaking, he raised his head to observe the surroundings. He found himself in a dim world, the celestial vault pitch black like a starless night sky, the barren earth and heaps of scorched soil emanated fire sparks and smoldering smoke, gradually making him feel the heat. What is this place? Confusion filled Zizai's heart, and he could only look towards his ancestor. Guwen said, We are inside a great cauldron, where thousands of beings beyond the 9 heavens of the immortal path are suffering. Beyond the 9 heavens of the immortal path? Thousands? Zizai's eyes widened, his mouth dropped open in shock, his worldview experiencing a strong impact. In his understanding, the 9th heaven of the immortal path was the highest realm, and he could not envision how powerful those beyond it could be. Yet thousands of such powerful beings were subdued here. Above the free immortal realm is the Tao Fruit realm, segmented into Taoist Zhang Zizai Immortal, Profound Yuan Free Immortal, and Heaven Encompassing Free Immortal. Beyond that lies the Golden Immortal Tao Fruit, segmented into Innate Golden Immortal, Heaven Balancing Golden Immortal, and Taiching Golden Immortal. Guwen gazed into the distance, softly introducing, leaving Zizai even more astounded. There are so many realms above the free immortal? CTH Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. What realm was the ancestor in? His intuition told him the ancestor might very well be a Taiching Golden Immortal. How else could he know so much? Zizai nervously asked, Ancestor, who is the enemy and where are they? Guwen did not hide it. The owner of this cauldron is an immortal god from the Celestial Court. We came here because my steed was captured here. Is it Uncle Master Blood Prison? Zizai's eyes lit up as he asked. Though the Blood Prison Great Saint was a steed, he was regarded as a disciple within Wuxia, and Zizai had heard his name since childhood. Among the disciples of Wuxia, Blood Prison Great Saint was the second only to his master with immense capability. Yes, it is him. Guan answered, having already sensed the presence of Blood Prison Great Saint and Fang Xian within the cauldron. They were trying to escape the cauldron, but no matter how they exerted their divine skills, they could not break free. The other trapped individuals within the cauldron had long given up hope, opting only to meditate to resist the cauldron's flames as best as they could. Are we going to rescue him now? And Zizai asked excitedly. He was excited for two reasons: meeting the Blood Prison Great Saint and encountering the immortal gods and realms beyond the free immortal. He felt a thrill reminiscent of his early days of training away from the Nine-Spirit Continent. No rush. Guan turned to walk and Zizai quickly followed. He glanced around, feeling very nervous, unsure of where the enemy lay. This world is so vast. Is it really a cauldron? And Zizai was secretly astonished, unable to imagine the strength and features of the celestial court immortal god who wielded such a great cauldron. As they advanced, Zizai saw bones upon bones, human remains and demon remains shocking to the eye, the stances of some of the skeletons making his scalp tingle. He could imagine how desperate they must have been while alive. Ancestor, how did you bring me in? And Zizai refocused his gaze on Guan, cautiously asking. Invading even the treasure of an immortal god seemed effortless, and Zizai truly sensed his ancestor's profound abilities, heightening his anticipation for the impending battle. Just stepped in. Guan answered casually. This offhand remark further increased Zizai's admiration for him. Ancestor, will you fight the immortal gods? In this place it might be worth testing their edge. What is this place? Where is this great cauldron located? Is it still within our world? This is the path of the Great Tao, incredibly far from the celestial spirit great world, so distant that with your current cultivation level, you will never be able to come here in your lifetime. Guan's answer left Zizai wide-eyed again, memorizing the name of this place, determined to journey here if possible in the future. Ancestor, if a battle does start, will you use the myriad supreme palm? And Zizai blinked, expectantly asking. Guan gently nodded. He did not look back, but this gesture was enough to make Zizai feel thrilled. Having cultivated the myriad supreme palm for so many years, he had not truly witnessed the power of this secret skill. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 689, Demon God's Physical Body Under the Dark Celestial Vault. The Blood Prison Great Saint landing beside Fang Xian, both of their expressions grim. No, we can't escape at all. The Blood Prison Great Saint gritted his teeth, clenching his fists, his eyes filled with rage. Having cultivated on the path of the Great Tao for so many years, to be effortlessly trapped in this realm made him feel deeply humiliated. Don't act rashly, let's meditate and observe this realm first. Fang Xian pulled the Blood Prison Great Saint to sit down, cautiously watching their surroundings. The floating scorched smoke and sparks reminded him of a terrible event that had occurred here, and it was likely to happen again. The Blood Prison Great Saint took a deep breath, struggling to calm his emotions. He then dispersed his divine sense, trying to investigate the situation here. He quickly saw figures of other captives but could not see the figures of Guan or Zizai. So many people were caught and many have a higher cultivation level than us. Fang Xian murmured, his tone full of unease. Xuanji Emperor. He's also here, reportedly one of the best chances of becoming a Taoist emperor among the current prodigies. Fang Xian's face changed dramatically. After saying this, his face looked ashen. The Blood Prison Great Saint felt increasingly anxious. Why had the immortal gods captured so many people? Meanwhile, Zizai followed Guan all the way. He noticed that although his pace hadn't accelerated, the surrounding environment shifted significantly. This was a very peculiar experience. Although he advanced quickly, it was hard to notice unless he observed carefully. It must be the ancestors' doing. And Zizai looked at Guan with growing admiration. As a child, he didn't understand why his master always obeyed the ancestor without question and wouldn't ask a single question regarding his commands, nor why other disciples feared the ancestor so much. Though seemingly carefree, the ancestor actually possessed great divine power capable of extraordinary feats, but he usually didn't show off. And Zizai silently vowed that he too wanted to become a person like the ancestor. True strength should be displayed at critical moments, not flaunted in daily life. We've arrived. Guan's voice suddenly rang, pulling Zizai's thoughts back to reality. In that instant he had the illusion that heaven and earth trembled. His gaze was drawn forward, His eyes slowly widened, pupils filled with astonishment. Following his gaze, there was a giant egg standing on the ground ahead, as massive as a mountain, towering 1,000 zhang high. The surface of the giant egg was like flesh and skin with veins, glowing red inside, faintly revealing a giant curled up within. Guan looked up at the giant egg and used lifespan detection, but received no feedback. So, it's not for alchemy but for forging a body? Without a soul, could it be for possession? Guan speculated secretly, sensing that the flesh inside the giant egg was already no less than the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. This body lacked celestial Tao destiny, yet exuded a terrifying aura, one that the heaven-encompassing free immortal should not have. Guan carefully deduced, finding this aura to be linked to some great Tao, and that this body had countless ties to the 3,000 great Tao. Delving deeper into his deductions, he saw a darkness, a cosmic plane beyond the 3,000 great worlds, oppressively bleak, with nothing visible. Though not much useful information was gained, he could confirm that the purpose of the great cauldron capturing so many living beings was to refine their flesh and merge it into this body. Ancestor, what is that? And Zizai couldn't help but ask. Just looking at the body within the giant egg made him shudder and gave birth to a strong urge to flee. Perhaps it's a demon god. Guan answered, his gaze fixed on the giant egg ahead. And Zizai wanted to ask more questions when suddenly the ground trembled, and frightening earth fire erupted. He instinctively flew upward, his eyes glancing at the ground. Guan still stood in place, the blazing flames around him causing no harm, his robe untouched by the fire, as if the surrounding inferno were an illusion. The speed of the earth fire's ascent was so fast that Zizai had to keep flying upwards. In the distance, silhouettes of other living beings also rose, with strong auras bursting from different directions, and Zizai could sense anxiety in those auras. Ancestor. And Zizai looked at Guan, calling softly, terror of the flames driving him to seek reliance on Guan. Guan suddenly waved his sleeve, taking the giant egg into his sleeve. He then took a step, a fierce wind erupting from around him, spreading instantly, dispersing the flames along the way. In the distance, the blood prison great saint and Fang Xian still sat on the ground, using their mana to resist the surrounding blazing flames. Fang Xian frowned and was about to speak when a strong wind came from the horizon, blowing away the sea of fire around them, making them turn their heads to look. What's going on? The blood prison great saint muttered, tensing up, his right hand gripping the heaven-breaking blood prison saber beside him. Fang Xian didn't answer the blood prison great saint. He was probing the situation in that direction with his divine sense. Unfortunately, unable to see Guan, he couldn't find the source. Above the Qi Sea of the great Tao, golden light extended infinitely. Hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers walked upon it, swaying unstoppably. At the front, the celestial calming god held a saber in one hand and a black cauldron in the other. In his grasp, the black cauldron appeared tiny, its surface engraved with fierce beast images, lifelike and eerie to the point of fear. Suddenly, Zia the novel, F.I.R. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The celestial calming god stopped, frowning as he glanced at the black cauldron in his hand. When he stopped, the hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers halted with him. Jianghu, standing amidst the crowd, gazed at the stance of the celestial calming god, curiously asking, "What's happening?" Beside him, Suyu squinted and answered, "The soul-refining cauldron seems to have a problem." Soul-refining cauldron? Jianghu was even more curious. He felt a sense of awe and dread towards the soul-refining cauldron, recalling scenes of it suppressing numerous prodigies. Even he, as a celestial god, felt intimidated. This cauldron was so ominous, full of evil. Boom! A pillar of fire suddenly rose in front of the celestial calming god, soaring into the sky, grandly towering, making even the mighty celestial calming god appear small before it. Within the fire pillar, the massive soul-refining cauldron slowly rose, becoming countless times larger than before. Who dares meddle with an immortal artifact? The celestial calming god's voice echoed, solemnly oppressive, like thunder echoing endlessly. All the heavenly soldiers were on guard, ready to form a formation at any moment. The soul-refining cauldron halted, suspended in the void, the surrounding fire pillar dissipating soon, quickly restoring calmness. The heavenly soldiers looked around, finding no enemy figures, forcing them to turn their gaze to the soul-refining cauldron. The top cover of the soul-refining cauldron did not tremble, standing as firm as Mount Tai, giving a sense of unshakable gravity. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 690. Flip of the hand. As hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers fixed their gaze on the lid of the soul-refining cauldron, inside the cauldron the endless sea of fire had already dissipated. One by one, figures soared into the air, hovering, and looked around, eager to grasp the situation. Who extinguished the cauldron fire? Some of these captives had already experienced the burning flames and knew the terror it wrought. That gust of wind just now was definitely no coincidence. There is a mysterious figure extinguishing the fire. And Zizai looked at Guan, his eyes filled with anticipation. What kind of epic battle will unfold next? Under Zizai's watchful eyes, Guan turned, facing a direction, and slowly raised his right hand. It has begun. And Zizai felt a surge of excitement, his eyes filled with expectation. As Guan lifted his palm, a terrifying aura erupted. This time he deliberately weakened the barriers of cause and effect and aura, allowing all creatures within the cauldron to see him, but unable to see him clearly. The Blood Prison Great Saint and Fang Xian also turned their heads, their gazes locked on Guan. They could only see a blurry figure, unable to discern Guan's true appearance. The Blood Prison Great Saint's expression was invigorated, his breathing becoming rapid. Though unclear, he instantly guessed it was Guan. Back then, when Guan stood against the battle court, his figure was just as unseeable, but his presence was felt. He just got caught and his master has arrived. Who is that, daring to? Fang Xian furrowed his brow and muttered to himself. Suddenly, as if realizing something, his eyes widened and shifted to the excited, trembling Blood Prison Great Saint beside him, causing his own heart to quiver. That existence has indeed come. On another side of the world within the cauldron, dozens of creatures hovered in the air, headed by a man clad in dark red battle armor. His figure was robust, long hair coiled beneath the majestic headpiece of a divine beast, with a stern face exuding immense pressure. This was the Xuanji Emperor, whose cultivation had reached the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. He was the existence with the greatest hope of becoming a Taoist emperor on the current path of the Great Tao. The Xuanji Emperor also couldn't see Guan's true self, but this person gave him the same feeling as his clan's ancestor, profound and unfathomable. He had an intuition that this person might lead them out. Under the watchful eyes of thousands of prodigies and great cultivators, Guan gently pushed forward with his right palm. The action seemed casual, like picking flowers and grass. But as Guan's arm straightened, a terrifying force suddenly erupted, shattering the darkness of the celestial vault in front of him. A whirlwind mixed with burnt smoke roared forth, like a pack of dragons vying to be the first to rush out, creating a grand spectacle. Thousands of captives caught in the whirlwind were all stunned by this palm of Guan. They could feel the terrifying, irresistible force. Ever since they fell into this realm, they had tried to break out, all in vain. Their strongest divine skills didn't create the slightest damage. Cloaks flapping and hair swirling, all captives gazed at the broken hole in the horizon where inside shone a dazzling white light, resembling an entrance to a new world. Above the Qi Sea along the Great Tao, hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers watched as a huge hole was blasted through the soul-refining cauldron. The oppressive heat wave surged out, unstoppable, and the majority of heavenly soldiers showed a look of disbelief. Such an immortal artifact was actually pierced through? And from the inside. The celestial calming god's face was equally grim as he leapt into the air, arriving at the hole in the soul-refining cauldron, using his physical body to withstand the wind and waves. He raised his mighty sword high, while hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers began to form ranks. Zhang Buku and Suyu both directed their mana while looking at the soul-refining cauldron, their gaze concentrated on that hole, curious about what kind of powerful being had broken through the cauldron. They instinctively thought of the Xuanji Emperor, whose performance had impressed them when the celestial calming god captured him. Under the scrutinizing eyes of all the heavenly soldiers, the blinding light inside the hole of the soul-refining cauldron continued to shine as a figure slowly emerged, seeming like a speck of dust compared to the gaping hole but exerting extreme pressure on the heavenly soldiers. Guan slowly walked out of the white light, followed by Zizai. Neither the celestial calming god nor the hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers could see their true forms, only perceiving two vague silhouettes, which made the celestial calming god even more wary of Guan. "Who are you?" the celestial calming god questioned sternly. He was sure he had never captured these two before, meaning they had sneaked into the soul-refining cauldron without a trace. Their cultivation level was likely above his. This is the path of the great Tao, and any being daring to oppose the celestial court might intend to kill them. Especially since they hid their true forms, it was clear they harbored ill intent. He could die and be resurrected through the celestial court's destiny, but his hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers couldn't since they hadn't truly been inducted into the immortal class. After putting in so much time and effort, he didn't want his soldiers to fall here. Guan did not respond to the celestial calming god. His gaze swept over the hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers and spotted Jianghu. He looked at Suyu beside Jianghu. He had previously calculated that a Daluo being backed Suyu. Now, looking at Suyu up close, he could see more of the cause and effect. The Daluo existence behind Suyu had intricate ties with the celestial court, but wasn't completely shrouded by its destiny. Could it be he wants to break away from the celestial court? As Guan pondered, hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers flew upwards, encircling the soul-refining cauldron, quickly forming ranks, like a giant golden bell silhouette enveloping the void. Within the silhouette, countless golden dragons and fire phoenixes coiled, exuding immense pressure, with dragon roars and phoenix calls resonating endlessly. From behind Guan, figures flew out of the white light, all the captives emerging. After the blood prison great saint flew out, he gazed at Guan from afar with an excited look, but he restrained the urge to acknowledge him. The master had not revealed his true form, so he couldn't spoil things. He began to anticipate how his master would confront the heavenly court immortals. The Xuanji Emperor, Fang Xian and other captives saw the celestial court's formation complete and dared not act rashly, all their attention focused on Guan, pinning their hopes on this mysterious great power. Sir the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The celestial calming god lifted his sword, pointing it at Guan as his Dharma aspect rose, radiating majesty like an ancient war god standing up, dwarfing even the soul-refining cauldron. If you refuse to speak, you're an enemy. The celestial calming god shouted solemnly, thoughts rushing through his mind, but with so many enemies over the long years, he couldn't promptly identify who it was. Yet he didn't waste time in idle chatter. During the questioning, he was already mobilizing the celestial army's destiny of the celestial court, focusing it on himself. He was already at the cultivation level of a heaven-balancing golden immortal, and his momentum was escalating crazily. Guan saw through the celestial calming god's little tricks but didn't mind. And Zizai looked at the figure of the celestial calming god and the grand formation of hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers. This was the first time he had encountered such an imposing scene in all his years. Watch closely, this is the first strike of the myriad supreme palm. Guan's voice suddenly resonated in Zizai's ears, causing his eyes to widen. And Zizai fixed his gaze on Guan, watching him raise his right hand once more. This time, Guan didn't push forward but instead flipped his right hand upwards and then pressed it downwards. Not just in Zizai, almost everyone had their eyes glued to Guan. Seeing his movement, no one dared breathe. As Guan's palm pressed downward, an immense, boundless pressure descended from the sky, enveloping everyone, shocking them as they looked up. Hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers raised their heads uniformly, the scene utterly spectacular. They too widened their eyes in disbelief. The always composed and profound Suyu's expression also drastically changed, exclaiming in shock, "How can this be? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 691. Suyu's voice was drowned out by the roar within the void, and Zhang Buku beside him also widened his eyes, with specks of golden light appearing rapidly in his eyes, quickly connecting into a continuum. Hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers looked up, all with expressions of utter astonishment. Celestial calming god looked up and was similarly shocked. He immediately roared in anger, raised his sword and slashed upwards. His mana, nearly at the limit of the heaven-balancing golden immortal realm, suddenly erupted, soaring skyward. The golden bell phantom formed by hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers trembled violently, and those golden dragons and fire phoenixes, as if encountering a natural enemy, ceased altogether, roaring towards the sky. The thousands of other trapped people behind Guan also looked up, all staring in stupefaction, the golden light illuminating their shocked expressions. Golden ethereal palms of varying sizes descended from the sky, endless and inexhaustible, all shining with piercing golden light, occupying the entire sky above the void, as if another plane was descending, full of oppression. No matter which direction one looked, there were massive golden palm silhouettes as large as mountains, some even larger than heaven and earth, with an unimaginable oppressive force that made it impossible for them to escape the range of the celestial army's formation. Even the Xuanji Emperor of the heaven-encompassing free immortals could not count how many golden ethereal palms there were. In the face of such divine skills, the heavenly court immortals were like mere mortals, insignificant and fragile. And Zizai opened his mouth wide, staring blankly at the relentless descent of the golden ethereal palms, his mind blank as he gazed at the spectacle. Time seemed to slow down, and everyone except the celestial calming god had no time to react. The celestial calming god wielded his sword to cut, and in the process of ascending, the vast mana transformed into a crimson qilin, surrounded by heavenly thunder. It was even larger than the soul-refining cauldron, but under the endless palm silhouettes of the god-calming realm, it was like a mosquito caught in a storm, ready to be overwhelmed at any moment. The descent of the god-calming realm was extremely fast, from appearance to arrival in less than half a heartbeat. Countless golden ethereal palms smashed onto the golden bell phantom, and the dazzling golden light made the entire void lose its color. Jianghu looked up with wide eyes. He instinctively wanted to use his divine skills, but his actions weren't quick enough, and ultimately his entire body was engulfed by the golden light. Boom. Boom. Boom, as the cosmic void lost its color, deafening roaring sounds erupted continuously, and Zizai also closed his eyes, unable to see, and the incoming sounds made him feel as if the entire Tao universe was shaking, his chi blood freezing, causing extreme discomfort. Standing behind Guan, he felt this way, let alone the others. Blood Prison Great Saint felt both uncomfortable and excited. Even though he couldn't see, the vast spectacle of the god-calming realm echoed in his mind. Such divine skills, he wanted to learn them too. Once he returned, he would pester his master to teach him this divine skill. Xuanji Emperor also found himself unable to perform magic, but he sensed a special fate. A special fate not only due to pure and powerful cultivation but also a special fate supporting it. This fate was similar to the Taoist emperors, comparable to the Great Tao, yet independent of the Great Tao. This astonished the Xuanji Emperor greatly. Is there a kind of Great Tao destiny on the path of the Great Tao stronger than the Taoist emperor? He had no time to ponder more, quickly realizing his consciousness was being dragged into slumber. And Zizai had a dream, dreaming of ancestors slaughtering indiscriminately among the heavenly soldiers and generals, no immortal or god able to withstand a single blow, a completely one-sided massacre. Suddenly, Ancestor approached him, frightening him into abruptly waking up, opening his eyes wide and sitting up, gasping for air. The morning sunlight pierced through the mountains and rivers of the earth, shining on him, giving him a feeling as if a lifetime had passed. He instinctively turned his head and found himself in Ancestor's courtyard. Shenzhen and an XN were sitting in front of the artifact refining cauldron, conversing in low voices with no sign of anyone else. He couldn't help but ask, "Master, Uncle Shen, where's the ancestor?" "Your ancestor went out to play, estimated to be back by evening," an XN replied calmly. It was Shenzhen who turned his head to look at him, curious. "How was it? Did you witness your ancestor's hand?" And Zizai took a deep breath, nodded heavily, recalling the memories in his mind. He couldn't help but clench his fists, his eyes shining. He replied, "Ancestor used the divine skills he taught me, so strong, there must be at least 100,000 heavenly court immortals. Not one could withstand a single palm from him." And XN also became interested, turning to listen to him describe the previous battle. At the same time, Guan was staying in the mountain god temple of Tai Tsang continent. After picking the ripe medicinal herbs, he came into the courtyard, then silently activated the lifespan barrier, taking out the demon god body he had taken from the soul refining cauldron, still within an egg. He did not kill the celestial calming god and the hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers. The celestial calming god couldn't be killed, and those heavenly soldiers were innocent, simply following orders. If they were all killed, the karma involved would cover the 3,000 great worlds and various mysterious universes, let alone Jianghu, who was also among them. Of course, aside from intimidating the celestial calming god, this battle also showcased the power of the primordial Tao Emperor to those thousands of trapped people and hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers. These trapped people and heavenly soldiers were all great powers and gifted prodigies. They would certainly perceive the fate of the primordial Tao Emperor, and they could spread the primordial Tao Emperor across their respective universes. At this moment, Guan was more concerned with the demon god body that the celestial calming god had refined. He observed carefully and found that this demon god body had a high tolerance for the 3,000 great Daos, meaning it could cultivate various great Daos with ease. For whom was the celestial calming god preparing this body? This body had no heavenly court destiny, so Guan realized that there were hundreds of such bodies within the 3,000 great worlds, and one was hidden within the divine court of Taiwei Great World. Ia the Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. So many demon god bodies, and they are all being refined by immortals and gods, must be related to the struggle with the Celestial Emperor. Do they need so many demon gods to overthrow the current Celestial Emperor's rule? Guan was very curious about how strong the Celestial Emperor really was today. What was his concept of the heavenly Tao? Perhaps the disregard of the immortal gods for all living beings is related to the battle for the Celestial Emperor. Guan looked at the demon god body, silently thinking. Profound mysterious Jinren sat beside him, curiously looking at the giant egg in front of Guan. Even though the egg had shrunk a lot, the figure curled up inside still appeared large. Staring at the figure inside the giant egg, profound mysterious Jinren felt very uneasy, feeling that this body was terrifying, making him afraid to disturb Guan. For a long time. Guan glanced at profound mysterious Jinren and smiled. I shall grant this body to you to aid in your possession. Do you agree? Upon hearing this, profound mysterious Jinren's face changed greatly, not immediately agreeing or refusing but cautiously asked, what is the origin of this body? This body was refined by the immortal gods, true immortal gods. If you possess it, you will have talent surpassing all creation, but you will also bear unforeseen karma, which might drag you into immense trouble in the future. Guan explained, making profound mysterious Jinren even more nervous. True immortal gods? The reason profound mysterious Jinren follows Guan is because he devoutly believes in immortal gods. Now hearing of true immortal gods from Guan, his heartbeat quickened. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 692, The Supreme Celestial Emperor, How do you wish me to choose? After much thought, profound mysterious Jinren decided to inquire about Guan's attitude. He owed his current achievements entirely to Guan's support, and he believed Guan would not harm him. Even if he was merely a pawn for Guan, he would willingly accept it. Guan replied, naturally, I hope you can accept it and perhaps in the future, you could use this body to enter the immortal class. Profound mysterious Jinren narrowed his eyes and asked, do you want me to infiltrate the celestial court? So clever. Guan spoke earnestly, immortal gods exist, but they disregard all living beings. Some even commit evil deeds in the human world. I think there might be issues within the celestial court that creates immortal gods. The reason he chose to give the demon god body to profound mysterious Jinren was twofold. To genuinely help him change his fate, and because profound mysterious Jinren yearned for immortal gods, thus he could send him to the celestial court as a spy. The destiny of the celestial court is complex and cannot be predicted, but if a spy is planted, they can still investigate the internal situation of the celestial court. After hearing this, profound mysterious Jinren thought it made sense. The current immortal gods were indeed strange. They were not seen saving the world. Instead, many catastrophes arose because of them. Then I am willing to possess this body, thank you for your grace. Sar the Novel Fr. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Profound mysterious Jinren immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Guan. If it weren't for Guan's care he wouldn't have lived this long. Even though he was already hundreds of thousands of years old, his path of cultivation was still hopeful, all thanks to Guan. Moreover, he believed Guan was greatly virtuous. Without Guan, the world he resided in would have been destroyed several times already. No matter the underlying reasons, born in the celestial spirit great world, he should take its side. Whoever protected it was the true immortal god in his heart. Guan, looking at profound mysterious Jinren kneeling in front of him, couldn't help but think back to 56,000 years ago, when profound mysterious Jinren had also knelt to him like this. He wondered whether this arrangement was a blessing or a curse for profound mysterious Jinren. Guan did not hesitate. He had already explained the pros and cons and his intentions to profound mysterious Jinren, which was also what the latter sought. He believed that profound mysterious Jinren was not compelled by his power. Profound mysterious Jinren surely knew that even if he refused Guan, Guan would not trouble him. Then let's begin. On a desolate meteor on the path of the great Tao, Jianghu opened his eyes, quickly stood up and looked around. He found himself surrounded by heavenly soldiers. Suyu stood by his side, frowning as he looked into the distance. Jianghu couldn't help but ask, "Did that person leave?" Suyu nodded and said, "The other party didn't harm us. They probably left to save someone." Following his gaze at the horizon, the celestial calming god was meditating on a cliff, with his back to hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers. "What's wrong with him?" Jianghu whispered, also staring at the celestial calming god. Suyu replied, "He might be transmitting information." He took a deep breath, turned to Jianghu and asked, "Did you feel anything during the previous great battle?" Hearing this, Jianghu began to recall carefully, thinking of the terrifying scene that seemed to suppress the world, and he still felt fear. After a while, Jianghu hesitantly said, "That person had a kind of destiny similar to the Taoist emperor, but different from it. The great Tao destiny was no secret to him. He currently had access only to the celestial Tao destiny and Taoist emperor. Whether becoming a celestial Tao immortal god or a Taoist emperor, one would possess unparalleled divine power in the same realm. Now there was a new type. Guan's great Tao destiny made him feel an extremely fierce aura that directly confronted the soul and Tao heart. Indeed, it's another kind of great Tao destiny. The heavens are about to change," Suyu said softly, his words full of complexity. Jianghu asked in confusion, "Change?" A long time ago when the Taoist emperor was born, it once triggered a catastrophe that swept through the 3,000 great worlds and all the heavens, even affecting the celestial court. Although the celestial court disdained the Taoist emperor, once there were many Taoist emperors, they attempted to overthrow the celestial court's rule. If this great Tao destiny also flourishes, it will inevitably challenge the divine might of the celestial court. Suyu's voice was filled with emotion. "Do you mean the celestial court will hunt down this kind of destiny?" "No, the celestial court is arrogant. They disdain all existence, especially the supreme celestial emperor. He can allow all forces to grow. The conflicts between the celestial court and all the heavens are basically about offending a certain immortal god, rather than the will of the entire celestial court." Mentioning the celestial emperor, Suyu's eyes shone with a light Jianghu had never seen before. Jianghu could feel Suyu's immense reverence for the celestial emperor, sparking unlimited curiosity about him. What kind of being is the celestial emperor? Meanwhile, in another plane on the path of the great Tao, Blood Prison Great Saint and Fang Xian were blocked by a group of people. "Do you also wish to pursue the primordial Tao emperor?" Blood Prison Great Saint asked with a raised eyebrow. The primordial Tao emperor had already taken root and flourished on the path of the great Tao. Blood Prison Great Saint didn't think this was a secret, nor did he know that the primordial Tao emperor was something Guan had pioneered. After the previous great battle, he assumed that Guan was also the primordial Tao emperor. It made sense. If Guan wasn't the primordial Tao emperor, why would he let them cultivate as the primordial Tao emperor? As for Guan sending him to gather information, he understood it. Even though he had begun reincarnation projection, his understanding of the primordial Tao emperor was still insufficient. Not to mention the primordial Tao emperor, those Taoist emperors who achieved their own great Tao destiny probably didn't know enough about it. Xuanji Emperor nodded and said, "Indeed, that fiercely powerful great Tao destiny suits me more." Having witnessed Guan's power, he was enthralled by such a powerful and domineering aura. Even though he was already close to becoming a Taoist emperor, he decided resolutely to abandon it. In his eyes, the Taoist emperor was just a form of power, not his lifelong pursuit. Now, with the emergence of a stronger and more alluring power, how could he hesitate? The people following Xuanji Emperor had similar thoughts. They were very curious about the primordial Tao emperor. To tread the primordial emperor road, you must find the primordial crystal. It will guide you into the path. Blood Prison Great Saint began introducing the primordial crystal. A proud talent behind Xuanji Emperor had a slight change in expression because he had encountered a primordial crystal before but hadn't paid much attention to it, thus secretly blaming himself for being blind. After chatting for a while, Xuanji Emperor finally thanked them and left. Blood Prison Great Saint and Fang Xian both received heavenly materials and earthly treasures from him, which made them feel favorable toward him. This person was different from other proud talents on the Emperor Road. He was not that arrogant and acted considerately. Watching them leave, Fang Xian smiled and sighed, "My path is not lonely. I truly look forward to the day when the primordial Tao Emperor overshadows the Taoist Emperor." Blood Prison Great Saint laughed, "That day will surely come. The Taoist emperor's path of proving the Tao, like raising venomous creatures, goes against the natural Taoist technique, and will ultimately be eliminated. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 693, 50,000 Years in the Human World. Attacking the celestial calming god's celestial army didn't bring any trouble to Guan. With his help, profound mysterious Jinren successfully possessed the demon god body, but needed time to adapt. Life returned to tranquility once again. Having witnessed the might that could calm the world like a god, and Zizai became thoroughly exhilarated and focused all his efforts on cultivation, more diligently than anyone else. Time flies like a fleeting horse, never to return. 500,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. The human world welcomed an unprecedented golden age, with 100 sects establishing branches beyond the heavens, exploring the void and the silent extinction domain. The number of free immortals doubled, and most free immortals were born after the reshaping of heaven and earth, all possessing excellent talents. In the Taoist field of the beginningless, the highest cultivation level among the second-generation disciples reached the Zizai immortal realm, able to hold their own, while the lowest were divine thought true immortals. 4 more third-generation disciples had joined, ranked by seniority. They were Lu Zidao, the disciple of celestial demon child; Zhou Yu, the disciple of Jiangshi; Jiang Lan, the second disciple of an Xan; and Shengguan Xiener, the disciple of celestial Cyan. The weakest, Shengguan Xiener, had also reached the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. The eldest of the third-generation disciples and Zizai had reached the cultivation level of Tao Void Profound Immortal. All these third-generation disciples chose to remain at the Taoist field of the beginningless to cultivate, though they did not receive personal instruction from Guan. On this day at noon, Guan lay resting under a tree, checking his attribute panel. Name, Guan, Sir the Novelier. N.T. website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Lifespan, 1067 509/76, 680 956 221 303. Physique, primordial Tao creation body. Cultivation level, perfect Taoist great Luo immortal realm. He was already an ancient being over 1,000,000 years old, with a lifespan reaching 76 trillion years. Every time he saw his age, Guan would sigh with emotion. Truly time spares no one. Looking back, his greatest sense of achievement was not his own cultivation level, but that the people he cared about were all living well. Li Ye, martial resolution, and Yang Jian were all free immortals. Though not the top cultivations in the human world, they were considered first-rate and held considerable influence wherever they went. Even the 100 sects in the human world treated them well. Other old friends like Jiang Qiong, Li Xiandao, and Profound Celestial Intent were all doing well. Even those like Lu Lingjun, Guyu, Zuolin, and Yuanying, with whom he had lost contact, had received his secret assistance and were living their own brilliant lives. Some people, though drifting further apart, did not leave Guan feeling regretful. He continued to keep an eye on them, considering it a small pleasure in his otherwise calm life. Ancestor, look at the book I wrote. A melodious female voice came from the side. A woman, dressed in a white skirt and as beautiful as a celestial being, floated over like a startling swan, quickly landing beside him. It was Shengguan Xiener, the disciple of celestial Cyan. She was the third-generation disciple closest to Guan, not because she was the only female disciple, but because she shared the same hobby as Guan. Her interest was inspired by Shenzhen. Whenever Shengguan Xiener came to find Guan, he would internally sigh. That wretched Shenzhen, what has he turned his obedient disciple granddaughter into? And celestial Cyan, who lost interest in a disciple in under 1,000 years and completely ignored it. Shengguan Xiener crouched down, handing the book in her hands to Guan, her delicate face full of anticipation. Guan glanced at an Xen meditating not far away, then tucked Shengguan Xiener's book into his arms, gave a slight cough and said, "I'll read it later, you can leave now, don't disturb your senior brother's cultivation." Shengguan Xiener turned her head to look at an Xen. She held a deep reverence for an Xen. In the entire Taoist field of the beginningless, she feared an Xen the most. Seeing an Xen still meditating, Shengguan Xiener turned back, looked at Guan and said mysteriously, "Ancestor, Qinghuan sect is going to war with the Tao court because of Yuan Luo. The information is very reliable." Yuan Luo and Zhao Rushan had a long-standing feud from their early years. Both were once the first geniuses of their respective sects and now held great power, which gave them even more confidence. Conflicts arose with each encounter. What's it to you? Guan said casually. In fact, he had already foreseen the final outcome of this conflict. Before Yuan Luo's birth, Emperor Tianhong would kill Zhao Rushan, causing the decline of the Dao court until it disappeared from history. Now that Yuan Luo replaced Emperor Tianhong, a war between Chenghuan sect and the Dao court was inevitable. Not just Chenghuan sect, the 100 sects in the human world would also besiege the Dao court, aiming to overturn the world order of the past million years. Many other sects' great cultivators had already secretly colluded with Yuan Luo. The 20 geniuses from the undefeated Emperor clan had also risen. They came from the Emperor clan, inherently belligerent, and had long wished to overthrow the Dao court. Now they were on good terms with Yuan Luo, serving as his support. Even without these 20 geniuses, the Dao court would ultimately fall. It was a destined fate, as no power could remain prosperous forever in the human world, so Guan didn't stop the geniuses from the undefeated Emperor clan. Not only had he introduced variables to the human world, but over these 500,000 years, there were also more than 1,000 beings with great divine skills from other great thousand worlds. The celestial spirit god did not intervene, for the celestial spirit great world also had many who ventured through the world gate. The variables increased, and the profound Yuan-free immortals and Taoist Zhang Zizai immortals of the human world could no longer foresee the future, causing unrest within the Dao court. Yet the fate of the celestial spirit great world remained visible to Guan whenever changes occurred. New destinies appeared in his vision. If he focused, he could even see the destiny branches created by these variables in advance. That's the Dao court, the strongest sect under the heavens. No, it's the strongest even beyond the heavens. Once Chenghuan sect goes to war with them, could it affect our Taoist field of the beginningless? Shangguan Xiener's voice was filled with excitement and anticipation as she spoke. Among the third-generation disciples aside from Zizai, the others only knew Guan was strong, but how strong exactly they were unsure. Moreover, the second-generation disciples intentionally didn't reveal that Guan was invincible to prevent them from becoming too arrogant. Guan stood up listlessly saying, "Maybe. You better seize the time to cultivate. With your cultivation, you're merely cannon fodder against the Dao court." He touched his chest, curious about the book Shangguan Xiener had written. Deliberately, he didn't simulate it beforehand, letting this book remain a mystery. Objectively speaking, Shangguan Xiener's characterization of people and depiction of environments was indeed top-notch, though she lacked the creativity of Shenzhen. Shangguan Xiener huffed, "I've already preliminarily mastered the 3,000 slaying Dao swords. I may not lack the strength to fight." "Oh please, with your swordsmanship, you call that the 3,000 slaying Dao swords? Ancestor, you're going too far. Not just your 3,000 slaying Dao swords, even your master's doesn't qualify. Your comprehension in sword Dao is too poor." Guan deliberately teased Shangguan Xiener, inciting her face to redden with anger. Unlike how he encouraged the second-generation disciples, Guan relished discouraging the third-generation ones. He just liked seeing his disciple grandkids getting rattled. He knew he was quite vile for doing so, but seeing his grand disciples, he just couldn't help but crack jokes. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 694. After a heated exchange with Guan, Shangguan Xiener left with a frustrated heart. "Master, is there divine scheming behind the conflict between the Dao court and the 100 sects of the human world?" And Xin's voice came through as she opened her eyes, gazing at Guan from afar. Guan turned his head to look at her and asked with a smile, "What is it? Are you worried about the Chenghuan sect?" And Xan shook her head and replied, "It doesn't matter who wins or loses, it's natural selection, destined by fate. I'm just worried that there's some interference from outer heaven. If that's the case, wouldn't it be a great pity for the sects of the human world? No matter who wins or loses, the internal strife in the celestial spirit great world can't affect much, as a new order will always arise. But the variables brought by the immortal gods are different, potentially overwhelming the entire celestial spirit great world. Such events have occurred before. Then you don't need to worry. The current disputes are also an evolution of the human world's progress." Facing an Xan, Guan was willing to reveal some heavenly secrets. The scheming of the immortal gods has always existed, but it's not the current conflict. An Xan nodded slightly, then came to Guan's side, beginning to inquire about difficulties in cultivation. She too had stepped onto the primordial emperor road, though her daily cultivation still primarily focused on the immortal emperor's eye. The master and disciple chatted for a while before Guan finally departed. He walked through the woods, his gaze fixed on the path of the great Tao. Someone was about to achieve the position of primordial Tao Emperor. This will be the first primordial Tao Emperor. And that person is Fang Xian. On the current path of the great Tao, over 3,000 beings have stepped onto the primordial Emperor road. Once the first primordial Tao Emperor is born, the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor will rise significantly, extending to the 3,000 great worlds. At that time, the primordial crystal will also be distributed across all heavens and myriad realms. The fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor is still in a growing state. If someone were to kill Guan, this fortune would dissipate into thin air. Once a primordial Tao Emperor is born, then, even if Guan were to fall, the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor would remain just like the great Tao, eternal and unchanging. Because of this, Guan also eagerly anticipated Fang Xian's success. At this moment, Fang Xian was meditating in an independent void, where only he and the Blood Prison Great Saint existed. The Blood Prison Great Saint was far away, not daring to disturb him. Once this cycle of reincarnation reflection concludes, integrating all reincarnation insights, Fang Xian will truly become the primordial Tao Emperor. As Guan's gaze fell upon Fang Xian opened his eyes in response, his eyes bursting forth with a frightening brilliance, as if illuminating the entire void. Seeing this, Guan's lips curled up and he withdrew his gaze. He knew Fang Xian had succeeded, and no one would come to stop him. As the sun set in the west on the grass by the big river, a man in black with a straw hat was advancing. He carried a broadsword on his back, 3 treasure swords at his waist, and a wine gourd in his hand, drinking as he moved. Behind the man in black was a young boy in commoner clothes, with 2 ropes thicker than his arms tied around him, connected to a broken log with a diameter of over a foot. This scene was quite spectacular because the disparity between the young boy's physique and the log was immense, making one marvel at the powerful strength contained within his small frame. Search * the novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The young boy was already drenched in sweat and panting heavily. He looked up at the man in black ahead and gritted his teeth saying, "Master, I've been carrying this burden for 100 miles, are we not stopping yet?" "This is just the beginning," Leah replied casually, tipping over the wine gourd in his hand and shaking it downwards, catching a single drop that fell before tossing it into his mouth. His action seemed quite carefree, making it hard to believe he was a free immortal. The tides of the human world rose and fell, with exceptional talents always taking turns to shine. Li Ya's renown wasn't particularly illustrious, but his growth rate had always been among the top in the world, with continuous opportunities. He too was now on the primordial Emperor road. Hearing his master's words, the young boy couldn't help but ask, "Continuously refining my physique, is it really useful? When will you teach me the method of cultivating immortality? Master, I really want revenge, you can't just mess with me like this." Leah did not turn back, snorted, "You brat, I'm not some idle person who has the time to mess with you. Your physique is extraordinary, it needs to be awakened. I'm doing this for your own good." Hearing this, the young boy could only suppress his frustrated feelings. After a while, he couldn't help but ask again, "Master, where are we going?" "To the Sword Sect to see how my junior brother's disciple is doing in their Tao practice." "The Sword Sect? Is Master Uncle also in the Sword Sect?" During the years following Li Ya, the young boy had heard of the Sword Sect's name, a supreme sect rumored to house immortals. Just the thought of possibly having his master come from the Sword Sect made him excited. Having lived together for many years, he only knew his master's name was Li Ya, but not his background, which he was always curious about. Unfortunately, Li Ya wouldn't divulge any details. "Your master uncle isn't there because the founding ancestor of the Sword Sect is your master uncle's disciple." Li Ya's response made the young boy's eyes widen, his face full of disbelief. He was truly shocked. The Sword Sect was founded countless years ago, and in the legends of the immortal cultivation realm had heard, only the Tao court was older than the Sword Sect. If Li Ya wasn't exaggerating, then how many years had Li Ya lived? "Your master uncle has many disciples. Of course I also have many, but unfortunately my disciples don't compare to his." Li Ya hummed softly, intentionally provoking the young boy. As expected, upon hearing this, the young boy quickly said, "Master, don't worry, I will surely not disappoint you. I will cultivate to surpass the Sword Sect's founder." "All you do is brag." Li Ya said this but couldn't help the upward curve of his lips. He truly saw endless hope in the young boy, recalling the past and how, at his current realm, to advance his cultivation level required accumulating long centuries, so he also wanted to take disciples to pass the time. He's had more than 10 disciples but felt none could compare to Gu An's disciples. He liked to compare his disciples with An Hao and Yang Jian. The young boy, to divert his focus, began to inquire about the name and whereabouts of that master uncle. Unfortunately, no matter how he asked, Li Yi gave ambiguous answers, leading to some bad guesses. Could it be that master and master uncle were not on good terms? Just then the young boy noticed an old man fishing by the river ahead, which confused him. There was no town within 1,000 miles. Why would someone fish here? Could it be a sage in seclusion? He had heard many legends. Great fortune seekers often encountered reclusive sages, thereby gaining inheritances and opportunities. Leah also noticed the old man appearing indifferent but was actually alert inside. Because he couldn't discern the other's cultivation level. He proceeded without a change in pace. As he walked past the old man's back, the old man spoke. Liya, from the Taizong dynasty, son of heaven of Taizong, sent to the supreme sect for cultivation in his youth. Liya stopped immediately upon hearing this. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 695. Heavenly Ascension Stairs. Liya looked at the old man by the river and squinted, asking, "Who are you, sir, and how do you know me?" The boy in coarse clothing followed and stopped, looking at them nervously. This old man had an unfathomable aura and immediately revealed his master's origins. Clearly he wasn't simple. The old man slowly stood up, turned to Liya, revealing a face full of wrinkles. His eyes were so hollow that it sent chills down one's spine. "If I said I am an immortal god, would you believe me?" The old man stared at Liya, speaking in an indifferent tone. Liya raised an eyebrow and said, "Anyone who reaches nirvana can call themselves an immortal. There are plenty of immortals in this world. Why wouldn't I believe it? Immortal gods." The boy in coarse clothing was stunned, quickly removing the rope from his body and watching the old man warily. He had experienced family destruction, so his vigilance was extremely high. "I am the Huang Feng, immortal monarch of the celestial court, ruling over the 3,000 great worlds. Everything in your eyes is not even as large as my palm to me." As the old man spoke, he raised his right hand, his gaze falling on his palm. Such arrogant words made Liya frown. He also grew cautious, ready to fight at any time. "Throughout hundreds of thousands of years, I've sent people to help you numerous times, teaching you Taoist techniques. Of course, your accomplishments today are also due to your own strong fuyuan and the help of other benefactors. But the immortal gods have always been watching you." Huang Feng, immortal monarch, raised his eyes to Liya, their eyes meeting. Liya inexplicably believed him. Liya asked, "So? What do you want? Do you need me to repay you?" Huang Feng, immortal monarch, asked, "If I offer you the opportunity to become an immortal class, would you take it? What are the conditions? After joining the immortal class, Sangtian will only grant you duties and divine power. I don't need you to do anything for me." The words of Huang Feng, immortal monarch, made Liya frown even more. Liya stared intently at Huang Feng, immortal monarch, as if trying to see through him. Huang Feng, immortal monarch, continued, "To be honest, choosing you wasn't because of your own opportunity, but because of the supporting Dao Sword Venerable. I think the supporting Dao Sword Venerable has a misunderstanding about the celestial court and the immortal gods. If there's no substantive conflict, I see no need to be enemies. If you become an immortal god and understand the celestial court, you would build a bridge between the celestial court and the supporting Dao Sword Venerable. In the future, a terrifying cataclysm will descend, sweeping across the 3,000 great worlds. We can face it together." Upon hearing him mention Guan, Liya's frown instead eased. Saying it like this, it seems true. Although he thinks highly of himself, he wouldn't truly think he could attract the attention of the immortal gods. Even though he doesn't know where the celestial court is, just hearing about it, he imagines it as an unimaginably powerful force. Liya asked, "If that's the case, why don't you just approach him directly? Can't you find him?" Huang Feng, immortal monarch, turned his head towards the horizon, speaking leisurely, "There is already an immortal god by his side, and sooner or later he will be told. As for finding you, it's just to deepen my sincerity." Liya thought for a moment and said, "Then can I talk to him first before coming to you?" Huang Feng, immortal monarch, looked at him, smiled and softly said, "Of course, that's not a problem. Let me first take you to see the celestial court." As he finished speaking, he suddenly swung his sleeve, sweeping away Li Ya and the boy in coarse clothing, the three disappearing together from the grass. Far away on the Tai Tsang continent, Guan did not stop what he was doing, continuing to pick medicinal herbs. Profound mysterious Jinren followed beside him. After 500,000 years, he had completely mastered the demon god body, his cultivation reaching the Zizai immortal realm, with an even more terrifying physical strength. Guan believed that even Taoist Zhang Zizai immortal was no match for him. Such progress is not exaggerated. After all, the demon god body is a great opportunity from the celestial court. Now when facing him, Guan no longer hides behind a tiny masked figure but confronts with his true form. Profound mysterious Jinren followed beside Guan, like a Taoist child, inquiring about his cultivation doubts. Guan listened patiently, answering every question. After Guan finished picking the ripe medicinal herbs, profound mysterious Jinren began sowing seeds. Guan did not leave immediately but waited in the courtyard, his gaze on the row of stone statues in front of the courtyard wall, all of which were sword-venerate divine statues crafted by profound mysterious Jinren. When profound mysterious Jinren returned to the courtyard, Guan spoke, "Why make these stone statues? I don't need faith, nor do I need people to always remember me." This was the truth. His cultivation to date was not reliant on the faith of the masses or worldly merits. They should remember. You don't need faith, but the world must not forget you. This is my selfish thought because I know this world isn't so important to you. If no one remembers you, there's no need for you to remain here. Profound mysterious Jinren spoke earnestly. The higher his cultivation level, the more he admired Guan. Even with a Tao heart like his, he would yearn for the universe beyond, for other great thousand worlds, but Guan could remain reclusive here and save the world multiple times. After hearing this, Guan did not respond directly but smiled. "Your kin is about to ascend to immortality." "Kin? Do you mean Li Ya?" Profound mysterious Jinren asked with a frown. He already knew the relationship between Guan and Li Ya. Back then he marveled at Li Ya's luck. Although they share the surname Li, he and Li Ya were like strangers. In his view, without Guan's help, neither he nor Li Ya could become immortals. There are immortal gods wooing him, trying to persuade him to become an immortal, supposedly to draw me in. Guan spoke with a smile, lifting his eyes to the celestial vault, his gaze seemingly already locking onto Li Ya. Profound mysterious Jinren heard the implication in Guan's words and asked, "Since it's a scheme, will you intervene?" Guan calmly replied, "Let Li Ya see the celestial court first. He needs to make his own choice. Even if the other party's target is me, for him, it's a great opportunity rarely encountered in life." These words made profound mysterious Jinren deeply respectful. Compared to Guan's broad-mindedness, the schemes of the heavenly court immortals were insignificant. The Lord of the celestial court is lacking. It would be better to let the senior take charge. Profound mysterious Jinren looked at Guan, thinking to himself. Above the sea of clouds, Huang Feng immortal monarch, Li Ya, and the boy in coarse clothing appeared out of thin air. The boy in coarse clothing collapsed directly onto the clouds. He was about to speak, but was captivated by the sight above. Following his gaze, the celestial vault was azure, and at the top of the celestial vault, one could see the cosmic starry sky, vast and boundless, giving a fantastical sense of being in a dream. Sir the Nell Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The celestial vault merged seamlessly with the universe. Li Ya was also drawn by the magnificent scene above, feeling that the concentration of spiritual energy here far surpassed that of the celestial spirit great world. Cultivating here for a day might equal several months in the celestial spirit great world. Is this the celestial court? Huang Feng immortal monarch spoke. This is not the celestial court, but it leads to the celestial court. The celestial court is above all realms, and cannot be reached merely by traversing the universe. One must ascend the heavenly ascension stairs. In the celestial court, not all immortal gods can ascend the heavenly ascension stairs. The celestial spirit god who guards the celestial spirit great world has never stepped on the heavenly ascension stairs in his life. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 696, Heavenly Might. Heavenly Ascension Stairs. Li Ya looked up, searching for the heavenly ascension stairs that Huang Feng immortal monarch mentioned, but no matter which direction he looked, he couldn't find them. The cloth-clad youth was also searching for the heavenly ascension stairs. The celestial vault was boundless, the universe magnificent, its end unseen, and the sea of clouds beneath their feet equally vast, making them feel as insignificant as dust. After looking around, Leah couldn't help but ask, "Where are the heavenly ascension stairs? You can't have brought me here just to look at the sky, right?" Huang Feng, immortal monarch, smiled and said, "Usually you can't glimpse the immortal signs of the celestial court, but today I will make an exception. You are about to witness something even a celestial god cannot comprehend." These words made Liya and the cloth-clad youth even more expectant. Huang Feng, immortal monarch, stepped forward, then lifted his robe, kneeling with one knee and raised both arms, chanting magic spells that Liya and his apprentice could not understand. Liya and the cloth-clad youth became even more anxious, looking up at the celestial vault, waiting for the heavenly ascension stairs to appear. CTH Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The sea of clouds ceased its surging, the celestial vault and the starry cosmos remained silent yet oppressive. As time passed, Liya and the cloth-clad youth gradually felt an overwhelming pressure, reminiscent of the celestial tribulation experienced during crossing the tribulation. Liya felt it most acutely, as none of the pressures he had faced during any celestial tribulation ever compared to the current heavenly pressure. Suddenly, a burst of golden light descended, illuminating Liya and the others, eyes wide open, mouths slightly agape. A streak of golden light quickly descended from the depths of the universe, rapidly enlarging, seemingly set to occupy the entire cosmos. Before Liya and the youth could ponder further, the golden light had already descended, turning into an incomparably majestic golden mountain, stretching countless miles long, its height unfathomable. The cloth-clad youth gazed upwards, pupils full of golden light. Even Liya was shocked, looking up in awe and spontaneously guessing how high this golden mountain might be. It seemed 1,000,000 zhang high. Placed in the celestial spirit great world, it would probably be visible even from outer heaven. Yet he had never seen such an enormous mountain, making him forget his worries for a moment, staring blankly at the golden mountain ahead. The golden mountain shone brightly, devoid of any vegetation, appearing like a heavenly wall across their path, and once it fell, its imposing aura grew, showing no end in sight on either side. Huang Feng, immortal monarch, slowly stood up, looking at the 1,000,000 zhang high golden mountain before him, eyes full of reverence. How could the heavenly ascension stairs? Liya took a deep breath, looked towards Huang Feng, immortal monarch, opening his mouth to ask, yet before he could finish, another vast heavenly pressure descended, startling him to look up again. What he saw next was a scene he would never forget. One after another, golden mountains 1,000,000 zhang high fell from the top of the universe, stacking upon each other, shaking the heavens. Boom, 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 the entire world seemed to tremor, the sea of clouds roiling like molten waves. The cloth-clad youth gazed in shock at the celestial vault, body trembling incessantly, and Liya, though slightly better, was not much different. Golden mountains layered upon one another, rising continuously, forming a golden celestial staircase leading into the depths of the universe, each step 1,000,000 zhang high, exuding an insurmountable oppression, sacred and solemn. After a while, the disturbances in this world finally subsided. Huang Feng, immortal monarch, waved his sleeves, taking Liya and the cloth-clad youth to the distance, looking at the heavenly ascension stairs from millions of miles away. Even from such a distance, the heavenly ascension stairs still overwhelmed the eyes of Liya and his apprentice. From this vantage point, the heavenly ascension stairs seemed to have already broken out of the boundaries of this world, leading deep into the universe, unseen at the end, and Liya and the youth felt that just walking along these stairs would take them to the peak of the great Tao. The feeling was wondrous, yet the two inexplicably nurtured such a thought. The heavenly ascension stairs are not just tall, each step harbors immense heavenly pressure. To set foot on the first step, one must first reach the golden immortal Tao fruit realm, a realm far beyond your current reach. Only those in the immortal class have the opportunity to attain it. Huang Feng, immortal monarch, remarked with a tone of reflection. Although this was not his first sight of the heavenly ascension stairs, he could not help but marvel every time he saw them. The existence of the heavenly ascension stairs symbolized the insurmountable gap between the mortal and the immortal. Even someone like Huang Feng, immortal monarch, felt a sense of awe toward the heavenly Tao. Liya did not respond, still caught in the throes of shock. He could feel that every step of the heavenly ascension stairs encompassed the strongest true meaning of the great Tao, so much so that he felt an impulse to kneel and worship. The trembling cloth-clad youth couldn't withstand the heavenly pressure and knelt in the sea of clouds, eyes vacant. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch turned, looking at Li Ya, and with a smile asked, "Now how will you choose? Will you still seek him out? Even if I can't form a friendship between you and him, becoming an immortal god is your greatest opportunity. Only by becoming an immortal god can you truly achieve immortality. I cannot harm you, for the celestial rules exist." Upon hearing this, Li Ya instinctively wanted to agree, yet as he spoke, he forcibly suppressed the urge within. After seeing the heavenly ascension stairs, he believed in the existence of the celestial court, influenced by the heavenly Tao on his soul, making him unable to doubt it. Yet when it came to Guan, he had to tread carefully. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's words only made him feel that the immortal monarch was fearful of his contact with Gu, and was it truly to form an alliance through him? Li Ya took a deep breath and said, "I still wish to find him first. I will strive to convey your sincerity." He feared that Huang Feng Immortal Monarch would turn hostile, so he left room in his words. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch heard this, still maintaining a smile, yet his smile grew more and more eerie. Li Ya realized something was amiss, immediately grabbing the cloth-clad youth, distancing them from Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. The next second, Li Ya's expression changed drastically, discovering his mana had solidified, looking at Huang Feng Immortal Monarch in terror. The cloth-clad youth also awoke from his shock, glancing at Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, frightened by the monarch's sinister smile. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch stared intently at Li Ya, sighing, "Mortal, I have treated you with such sincerity, yet why do you still mistrust me?" Though fear gripped Li Ya's heart, his words remained unyielding. He directly questioned, "What do you intend to do with Guan? If you are truly an immortal god, why resort to such tricks?" Huang Feng Immortal Monarch laughed coldly, "I did not deceive you. I do wish to win him over, to make him an immortal god. But if he refuses, then the celestial court can only eliminate him. No one can refuse the celestial court's invitation. If you do not understand, you must understand today." Boom. His aura erupted suddenly, his clothes burnt away by flames, flesh as if turning to ashes and scattering, his form heightened, quickly revealing his true form. Golden red light ribbons surrounded him, his appearance still aged, yet more solemn than before, two divine beast phantoms rising behind his head, intertwining. The yellow robe fluttered, celestial aura exuded, the revealed form of Huang Feng Immortal Monarch emanated an unparalleled aura of dominance. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 697. Facing the true form of Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, Li Ya and the young man in simple clothes felt immense pressure, especially the young man who felt like he might explode and die at any moment. The oppressive aura around them squeezed his body, causing his chi blood to become chaotic. Li Ya was terrified. He could feel Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's killing intent. If he refused again, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch would definitely kill him. Moreover, he would have no power to resist. At this moment, memories of the past unexpectedly surfaced in Li Ya's mind. Those were memories of the profound valley, when he, Guan, and Meng Lang followed senior brother Zhang Chuanqiu to sow seeds. Back then, Meng Lang liked to order Guan around, while he always watched from the side. These memories had long become blurry, but for some reason, they became clear once again at this moment. SAR the Novel Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch quietly watched him, waiting for his decision. The grand and boundless heavenly ascension stairs still stood behind Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, like the end of the world, an insurmountable chasm. The young man in simple clothes couldn't turn his head to look at his master, but he could feel his master's agony. The immortal god spoke eloquently, but with such aggression, it was obviously not with good intentions. However, if he died here, he would miss his chance for revenge. The young man's heart was filled with fear and unease. Li Ya remained silent for a long while. Only when Huang Feng Immortal Monarch shifted his gaze to the young man did he finally speak. "I refuse to comply with you, even if you kill my disciple. Doing this will only make me angrier. If I survive, I will regard you as my greatest enemy, and even with the Celestial Court's protection, I will use all means and all my strength to take revenge on you. Until death." His tone wasn't fierce, even sounded strained, but his gaze was icy cold. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's brow slightly furrowed, and the killing intent in his eyes grew stronger. A mere mortal dared to threaten him like this. Boom. The young man in simple clothes suddenly exploded, flesh and blood flying everywhere, splattering onto Li Ya, covering half of his body with a bloody hue. His face was still marked with the remnants of the flesh and blood, yet his expression did not change. He continued to stare tightly at Huang Feng, Immortal Monarch, as if his disciple's death didn't affect him. Huang Feng, Immortal Monarch, sneered with disdain, saying, "Do you think you still have a chance? Refuse me and not only will you die but everyone related to you will also suffer misfortune, living a life worse than death in the human purgatory until death." He raised his right hand, reaching towards Li Ya. Li Ya's face remained stoic, only the chill in his eyes intensified. Snap. A hand suddenly rested on Huang Feng, Immortal Monarch's left shoulder, directly facing him. Li Ya's expression finally changed, and the corners of his mouth slightly lifted. Huang Feng, Immortal Monarch's face slightly altered. He turned his head slightly, using the corner of his eye to glance at the person behind him. Standing behind him was none other than Guan. Even though they were close, he couldn't see Guan's true face. Supporting Dao Sword Venerable, you've finally decided to show yourself. Huang Feng, Immortal Monarch, spoke, his tone tinged with mockery. Your entry into the celestial spirit great world must have been an accident. If you truly wished to support that son of heaven, you wouldn't have sent him out. Join the celestial court, I will personally petition Sangtian. You have no room for refusal. Having captured Tai, Immortal Monarch, and the 72 immortals of Jindong, you've already committed a heavenly crime. If you do not ascend to immortal god status before Sangtian becomes aware, you will face the wrath of the celestial court. By then, you will be facing an existence far more terrifying than I. Li Ya fixed his gaze on Huang Feng, Immortal Monarch, waiting now for Guan's choice. Can you really represent the celestial court? Guan's voice rang out, and Huang Feng, Immortal Monarch's body froze. Just as he was about to respond, a terrifying force suddenly obliterated his body, causing him to follow the same fate as the young man in simple clothes, except he did not explode into a blood flower but instead turned into flying ash and dispersed. Seeing Huang Feng, Immortal Monarch, unable to resist in Guan's hands, Li Ya was not surprised, but only his gaze turned complex. Junior brother Gu, why couldn't you appear sooner? Li Ya thought bitterly. He felt he had no right to blame Guan because the young man's death was his responsibility. Even having lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and after having experienced the tragic death of disciples, his heart still felt filled with guilt and unwillingness. Just then he noticed a change in Guan's eyes, a dark red cold light flickering, rendering him momentarily dazed. Master! A familiar voice reached Li Ya's ears as if it came from a great distance, gradually growing louder. He suddenly opened his eyes wide, awakening like from a dream, turning his head to see his disciple, the young man in simple clothes, standing right beside him. Xianyu, Li Ya looked at the young man, speaking in shock. He was utterly bewildered, unable to comprehend the situation. The young man named Li Xianyu stood before Li Ya, excitedly saying, Master, I'm not dead. I am alive. I thought I was going to die just now. Was I caught in an illusion technique? Upon hearing this, Li Ya looked down at his robe, noticing that the bloodstains were rapidly disappearing. The previous scene was definitely not an illusion technique. Li Ya turned his head towards Guan in the distance. Guan was watching him, yet in his eyes, Guan's figure was so blurred that he couldn't discern Guan's current expression. Junior brother Gu? What just happened? Li Ya couldn't help but ask. Upon pronouncing, Junior brother Gu, Li Xianyu's eyes widened, immediately turning towards Guan. Everything that just occurred was real, not an illusion. I merely turned his death from reality into illusion. He is still alive. Guan replied, leaving Li Ya and Li Xianyu even more astonished. They couldn't possibly understand Guan's meaning, filling them with awe towards him. Such unimaginable techniques? What level of cultivation must it be to achieve such? Li Xianyu asked nervously, then was that immortal god truly dead just now? Hearing this, Li Ya also grew tense, awaiting Guan's answer. Guan, facing away from the heavenly ascension stairs, replied, Immortal gods are immortal. Just now he was only a projection. In reality, his summoning of the heavenly ascension stairs wasn't to showcase heavenly might to you but to summon a path for stronger existence to the human world. Stronger existence? Li Ya and Li Xianyu shivered involuntarily, instinctively looking towards the heavenly ascension stairs. At the top of the heavenly ascension stairs, leading to the end of the universe, a ball of white light had unknowingly appeared, slowly expanding. Their hearts raced, feeling a chilling sensation as if being watched by an unknown presence. Supporting Dao Sword Venerable, since you know yet dare to come, who are you truly? Whom do you serve and what do you seek? Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's voice echoed, cold and foreboding, with killing intent engulfing the limitless cloud sea. Guan slowly turned around, facing the heavenly ascension stairs. At the top of the heavenly ascension stairs, within the dazzling white light, a figure descended. The million Jianghu stairs were like ordinary stone steps from the mortal world beneath his feet. He bathed in the strong light of the heavenly Tao, making it impossible to see his true form, yet merely his silhouette brought immense pressure to Li Ya and the others. Every step he took echoed with the terrifying momentum of a collapsing sky. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 698, Golden Crow Divine Sovereign. The heavenly Dao's brilliant light grew larger and larger, resembling the arrival of a bright sun. The mysterious figure descending from the peak of the heavenly ascension stairs moved neither fast nor slow, but his footsteps grew louder and louder, resounding like the trembling of the heavens and the earth. Li Ya and Li Xianyu raised their heads, their expressions dazed as they gazed at the figure on the heavenly ascension stairs. The true form of Huang Feng Immortal Monarch had already filled them with great despair, but compared to this figure, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch seemed insignificant. An overwhelming aura enveloped the entire world, causing the sea of clouds to come to a standstill. Boom, 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 the rumbling grew more intense. The mysterious figure's footsteps seemed to tread on the hearts of Li Ya and Li Xianyu, making their souls tremble in fear. Li Ya forced himself to hold his fears in check and looked towards Guan's back. Guan stood in front, facing the heavenly ascension stairs. His vague figure exuded an unshakable aura of steadiness, giving Li Ya some relief. Li Ya's emotions eased slightly, and he chose to trust in Guan. Guan dared to come, he must have confidence. As time passed, the figure on the heavenly ascension stairs grew larger and larger, so large that the celestial vault seemed cramped in comparison. At this moment, another figure appeared on the first step of the heavenly ascension stairs. It was none other than Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. His figure, like that of a mortal, did not appear majestic. Standing on the first step of the heavenly ascension stairs, he looked insignificant, yet his aura was hard for Li Ya to ignore. As for Li Xianyu, his cultivation level was too low to even see Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's form. He could only stare blankly at the arrival of the mysterious giant immortal. Supporting Dao Sword Venerable, the existence behind me is the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign, ranked among the supreme immortals of the Celestial Court, in charge of the celestial law, and able to represent heaven's will. Do you truly intend to defy the will of heaven? Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's voice resounded, his tone solemn. Guan gazed at the figure of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign. With the celestial destiny of the Celestial Court upon him, Guan couldn't perform lifespan detection on him but could sense his cultivation level. Late stage of Miao Zhen Daluo Immortal Realm. The celestial destiny upon him was extremely thick, far surpassing that of Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. Even if faced with the early stage of Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal Realm, it should still be difficult to extinguish him in a short time. Of course, he was by no means a match for a Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal either. Guan did not fear too much, nor was he afraid of offending the Celestial Court because of this. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch acted too cautiously, clearly fearing that the matter would be exposed. The Celestial Court was so powerful that if Guan had really offended them, they could easily suppress him instead of constantly probing him. Guan surmised it had to do with Tianhao. Tianhao was the son of heaven reincarnated. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, Tai Immortal Monarch, and others had come for him. From their perspective, Guan might be the protector of the Son of Heaven, possibly with other powerful immortal gods backing him. It was precisely because of this that Huang Feng Immortal Monarch continually asked if Guan wanted to join the Celestial Court. If he truly wanted to recruit Guan, why would he seek out Li Ya? So far, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch had not revealed how to make Guan and Li Ya become immortal gods, only constantly demonstrating the power of the Celestial Court. The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign did not stop walking, but as his distance to the sea of clouds shortened, his form became clearer. He seemed to be clad in thick divine armor, with a divine bird perched on his shoulder. Golden Crow. This Golden Crow was also enveloped in the strong light of the heavenly Tao, without revealing its true form. Sir the Oval Fire. @ website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Do you also dare to represent heaven's will? Guan's voice rang out, breaking the oppressive aura of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, allowing Li Ya and his student to breathe a sigh of relief and cease their nervous tension throughout their bodies. Huang Feng Immortal Monarch squinted, his eyes bursting with coldness. He stopped speaking, waiting for the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign to make a move. What is your relationship with the Eternal Life, Venerable? Do you know what consequences your actions will bring? An authoritative voice echoed, devoid of any emotion. Eternal Life, Venerable? Could it be the existence backing Tianhao? Guan spoke. The person you are looking for is no longer in the celestial spirit great world. You have been bothering me incessantly and it really troubles me. Humph, by aiding him you become our enemy. Since you refuse to speak, then prepare to die and feel the true wrath of heaven. The voice of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign resumed, domineering and starkly contrasting Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's demeanor. He stopped his steps, stood on the heavenly ascension stairs, and looked down at Guan raising his right arm. The golden crow on his shoulder fiercely flapped its wings, diving downward. After leaving the strong light of the heavenly Tao, the golden crow revealed its true form, enveloped in true sunfire, with a shape resembling a crow, its wings spanning millions of miles, as if bringing a sea of flames raining down from the celestial vault, unstoppable. Li Ya and Li Xianya's faces changed drastically at this scene. Guan suddenly raised his hand, the Cyan Hong sword appearing out of thin air. Holding the sword, he slashed towards the sky. With one slash, the sword chi shot out like a bright moon, the true meaning of the 3,000 great Tao gathering upon the sword chi, causing numerous stars to appear behind it as if a galaxy soared. Almost instantaneously, the sword chi collided with the golden crow. Boom! Dazzling light burst forth, the world lost its color, fierce winds crushed the sea of clouds, forcing Li Ya to channel all his mana to protect both himself and Li Xianyu. Even though Guan intentionally enveloped them with Tao intent, the powerful gusts of the great Tao still made their hearts race. The Golden Crow Divine Race stood lofty above, a pair of cold and terrifying eyes appeared on that face whose features were indistinct. He raised his hand, a roaring fire wave surged behind him, rolling like dragons. Outrageous! The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign's tone revealed extreme anger, and with this explosive shout, the sea of clouds beneath Guan and his companions dispersed directly. The terrifying true sun fire descended from the sky, dispelling the powerful light between heaven and earth. Li Ya looked up, witnessing an unbelievable sight, countless massive fire dragons coiling above the celestial vault. The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign stood among them, his golden armor blazing like the sun, his visage stern, his eyes continuously seeping with flame without pupils. His red hair coiled beneath the divine crown, like an unrivaled divine king descending with overwhelming celestial might. Guan could sense a certain special power contained within those fire dragons, transformed from the celestial Tao destiny. Could this be the celestial law that Huang Feng Immortal Monarch mentioned? Miaozhen Daluo Immortal Realm Perfection, no wonder you dare to oppose us. The Eternal Life Venerable truly is a master of fine maneuvers. The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign's voice arose, causing Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's face to change dramatically. He had guessed that Guan might be a Miaozhen Daluo Immortal, but hadn't expected him to have reached the perfection realm. Little did he know this was Guan's disguise. For Guan, suppressing his cultivation level to Miaozhen Daluo Immortal Realm Perfection was enough to defeat the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign. Today he intended to crush the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign's courage completely, so he would dare not trouble him again. The wind stirred Guan's black Tao robe. He stood holding his sword with one hand facing the wind, his silhouette imparting an indelible impact on Li Ya and Li Xuanyu. Before Guan, in the air, a huge sword shadow of silvery light appeared, larger than any single step of the heavenly ascension stairs, its tip pointing towards the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and the countless fire dragons. A sword intent capable of shaking the clouds and disturbing the great Tao locked onto the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign. Standing on the heavenly ascension stairs, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch widened his eyes and exclaimed, "Such sword intent, how is it possible? What is your relationship with the one from the river of Sword Tao? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 699, Guan's Realm. The sword intent of the 3,000 slaying Tao swords condensed into an image, hanging in the celestial vault, pointing at the heavenly constitutional Dharma aspect of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign. Facing this sword intent, the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign felt an immense threat, immediately gathering celestial Tao destiny to continually elevate his aura. The celestial vault began to collapse, space twisted, revealing patches of strange light spots. Leah looked up at the magnificent scene in the sky, his face filled with excitement. The sword intent, yes. It was the sword Tao taught to him by Guan, the Taoist technique he had cultivated the longest. Before this, Leah had hesitated, thinking he needed to seek more powerful divine skills as his achievements in sword Tao couldn't keep up with his cultivation level advancement. But now, witnessing the might of the 3,000 slaying Tao swords, the confusion in his heart was dispelled. The path of sword Tao could always be pursued. Guan held the Cyan Hong sword, the tip pointed downward as he looked up at the celestial vault, the sword shadows of the 3,000 slaying Tao swords directed at the direction within his gaze. He deliberately waited for a moment, allowing the mana of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign to reach its utmost limit. He heard the words of the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, but he didn't care. Now he wanted to slay both the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and the Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. Even if they could rely on the Celestial Court's destiny to revive, today he must shatter the courage of these two immortal gods. Guan's eyes grew cold, and the sword intent avatar, which had paused for a moment, suddenly erupted with a terrifying momentum capable of shattering everything. Boom! The silver light sword shadows moved like thunder, instantly scattering the sky full of fire dragons, revealing the magnificent scene of the cosmos. The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign stared wide-eyed, casting spells with both hands, unleashing his immense mana without reservation. Yet, in the face of Guan's sword intent, even with the blessing of celestial Tao destiny, he still felt his heart tremble with fear. How could Miao Jin Daluo Immortal be so powerful? The Golden Crow Divine Sovereign was himself a Miao Jin Daluo Immortal. Inside and outside the celestial court, he had encountered Miao Jin Daluo Immortal realm perfection before, but no one had ever filled him with such fear as Guan. His fear arose quickly, and his demise came just as swiftly. Li Ya and Li Xianyu only sensed the world brighten. In an instant, the celestial vault shattered suddenly, the universe following swallowed by darkness. They felt as though they had fallen into an abyss, the endless darkness assaulting their sight, causing their hearts to feel intense dread. This was an instinctive emotion. Even though they had the protection of Guan's Tao intent, the impact on their vision still affected their minds. Fortunately, this fear was short-lived. When they regained their senses and looked closely, they could no longer see the figures of the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and Huang Feng Immortal Monarch. They were in the dark universe, void and desolate, with only the three of them remaining along with the Heavenly Ascension Stairs. The Heavenly Ascension Stairs still stood, the dazzling golden light becoming the sole source of light in this universe. Guan looked at the Heavenly Ascension Stairs, feeling in his heart that the creations of the Heavenly Tao were truly extraordinary, unable to disperse even the Heavenly Ascension Stairs. He turned to walk toward Li Ya and Li Xianyu, just as the master and disciple were about to speak, when suddenly their vision blurred. The next moment, Li Ya and Li Xianyu felt their feet touch the ground, instinctively opening their eyes to find themselves back by the riverside they had previously passed. Li Ya looked around, already unable to see the figure of Guan. Everything that had happened before felt like a dream. Li Xianyu also did not find the figure of Guan, standing there dazed, recalling everything that had happened before, his expression bewildered. For a long time, Li Ya took a deep breath, looked up to the horizon and murmured to himself, "Miao Jin Daluo Immortal, is that your realm? Unheard of, and I wonder how many realms away it is from the profound Yuan Free Immortal." Knowing Guan's realm, Li Ya began to feel excited. At least he now had a target to pursue. Li Xianyu couldn't help but ask, "Master, was that person earlier the uncle master you mentioned before?" Yes, it was him. Li Ya's expression returned to calm, as enigmatic as ever. "He's amazing. Is he the most powerful existence under the heavens?" "Not just under the heavens. If you look beyond heaven, you won't find many who are his match." "So powerful, how can he be your junior brother? Could it be you're hiding your cultivation?" Li Xianyu asked expectantly, his eyes shining brightly. Li Ya did not answer, merely gazing profoundly toward the horizon, stirring Li Xianyu's imagination and making it difficult for his emotions to calm down for a long time. On the other side, Guan did not return to the Taoist field of the beginningless, but stood on the cliff of a high mountain. In front of him, a sea of clouds churned, with peaks emerging from the clouds in the distance. It was as if he stood above the Tsangtian with beautiful scenery. He was reflecting on the previous great battle. This battle had caused anxiety to arise in his heart. The celestial court's destiny was truly unsolvable, allowing immortal gods to resurrect endlessly. He must devise a method to dissolve the celestial court's destiny. The celestial court's destiny was essentially the celestial Tao destiny, only transformed through some creation, making the celestial court's destiny more complex. If he possessed a method to dissolve the celestial court's destiny, he could kill immortal gods at will. He thought it might be possible to start from the path of cause and effect in the path of chi fortune. Although he could not think of a solution for now, he could conduct lifespan projection and life evolution. He did not immediately set about doing this. Instead, he lifted his eyes to the celestial vault, his gaze hesitant. In the unseen, he sensed a sword intent calling to him from afar, that place being the river of sword Tao. The sword intent used to slay the golden crow divine sovereign had alerted a powerful being hidden within the river of sword Tao, who used sword intent to show goodwill and wished to meet him. Should he make a trip to the river of sword Tao? Above the boundless sea of clouds, there was a massive vortex emitting golden light, resembling an entrance to an exotic world magnificently vast. Beside the vortex, two figures appeared out of thin air above the clouds and mist, precisely the golden crow divine sovereign and the Huang Feng immortal monarch. At this moment, the form of the golden crow divine sovereign was no longer as huge as it had been before. Though still more stalwart than the Huang Feng immortal monarch, they now appeared roughly similar in size. The two immortal gods half kneeled on the mist, their backs rising and falling, gasping for breath. The golden crow divine sovereign, with his head lowered and eyes wide open, kept gasping, his eyes full of shock. Though he could revive, the sword intent earlier actually injured his Tao fruit, leaving him with lingering fear. Sir, the novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Even he was like this, not to mention the Huang Feng immortal monarch. Huang Feng immortal monarch trembled all over, supporting himself on the ground with both hands. He felt Guyan's killing intent still locked onto him. After a while, the golden crow divine sovereign stood up, turning his head to look at Huang Feng immortal monarch, who was still kneeling on the ground. He spoke, "Never go to the celestial spirit great world again." He had already returned to his usual state, solemn and indifferent. The Huang Feng immortal monarch did not lift his head, asking through gritted teeth, "What about the Tai immortal monarch and the 72 immortals of Jianghu? What do you mean, what about them? Could it be you and the Tai immortal monarch have become close friends? The celestial court is in turmoil now, supporting the Son of Heaven we have chosen is the top priority. The Son of Heaven protected by the supporting Tao Sword Venerable is too weak, unable to threaten the Son of Heaven we chose. Don't delay the important matters." The tone of the golden crow divine sovereign was irrefutably firm, causing the Huang Feng immortal monarch to fall silent. Seeing him so dejected, the golden crow divine sovereign said earnestly, "When the Son of Heaven exits seclusion, sweeping across the great Tao and all heavens, then we will ask him to destroy the celestial spirit great world. It will be no difficult task." The Huang Feng immortal monarch stood up, nodding with a complex expression. He no longer dared to go to the celestial spirit great world. He didn't want to face that sword intent again. Even if he could revive, each revival would deplete his cultivation, not to mention the feeling at the moment of death was real. Remove the heavenly ascension stairs and pretend it never happened. Do not spread it, understand? The golden crow divine sovereign stared at the Huang Feng immortal monarch, asking in a deep voice. The Huang Feng immortal monarch took a deep breath and said, "I will bury this matter in my heart forever. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 700, Infinite Void Sword Ancestor in the Dark Void. A river that emitted a silver-blue radiance stretched across the universe, twisting slightly, resembling an endlessly long silver dragon advancing slowly. This was the river of Sword Tao, formed by the Sword Tao nurtured by the heavens, on whose surface silver lines continuously emerged, symbolizing the birth of new Sword Tao. Guan appeared out of thin air on the river of Sword Tao. He had spied upon the river of Sword Tao many times, but this was his first time truly coming to it. As soon as he manifested, he stepped forward and walked toward the interior of the river of Sword Tao. The sword intent he displayed when confronting the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign and Huang Feng Immortal Monarch had disturbed the strongest presence within the River of Sword Dao. Guan sensed that the other party's cultivation level had reached the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm, although their minor realm was not as high as his. This time, Guan suppressed his cultivation level and came to meet this powerful presence with the Miaojin Daoyuo Immortal Realm Perfection cultivation level. After entering the River of Sword Dao, Guan was surrounded by sword intent. As he glanced around, he could peer through the sword intent into different worlds, seeing the 3,000 great worlds, countless little worlds, and mysterious planes adrift within the great Dao. The bizarre and colorful scenes along the way could not tempt Guan to halt his steps. Flying within the River of Sword Dao, Guan felt as if he were traversing through time and space. After a while, his feet landed on the grass, which was part of a small island floating in the depths of the River of Sword Dao. On the island was a grove, and on the grassland outside the grove stood numerous steles engraved with the names of various Sword Dao, numbering over 100. After just sweeping a glance at them, Guan walked toward the grove. The grove was serene and not very large. He reached the garden inside the grove after less than 20 steps. In the garden grew many flowers and plants, and there was a small wooden building, not very exquisite, giving off an ancient feel. In front of the building was a stone table at which sat an old man in a gray robe brewing tea. The fragrance of tea filled the air, and Guan could feel a certain sword intent within the tea aroma. "Please have a seat, fellow Taoist." The old man in a gray robe looked at Guan and spoke with a smile. "Infinite Void Sword Ancestor, Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm Early Stage 0/0/0, no lifespan?" No wonder he could only stay in the River of Sword Dao. It seemed his physical body and divine soul had already merged with the River of Sword Dao, coexisting with it. Guan silently contemplated as he followed and sat opposite the Infinite Void Sword Ancestor. The Infinite Void Sword Ancestor scrutinized Guan, while Guan likewise sized him up. After a while, the Infinite Void Sword Ancestor took the initiative to speak. "You must be the master of the Sacred Heart Sword Dao. Earlier I was wondering how this Sword Dao could grow so rapidly with such a great cause and effect propelling it in the future. It turns out it was you, fellow Taoist. The Sacred Heart Sword Dao indeed has good fortune, and it will surely assist you in reaching higher realms." He noticed that Guan was at the Miaojin Daoyuo Immortal Realm Perfection, not as high as his own, but he believed Guan would reach the same realm as him in the future or even surpass him. He himself had achieved today's Dao practice by sacrificing freedom, whereas Guan had lost nothing. Guan nodded, curious as he asked, "Why are you in this River of Sword Dao, fellow Taoist?" With the ability of a Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal, plus the connection with the River of Sword Dao, seeing through the origins of the Sacred Heart Sword Dao did not seem difficult to Guan. The Infinite Void Sword Ancestor stroked his beard and smiled. "To be honest, I was once a disciple of the Immortal Cave Heaven. Back then, while I was still in the heaven-opening Daoyuo Immortal Realm, I offended a Supreme Immortal of the Celestial Court. To avoid implicating the Immortal Cave Heaven, I came to the River of Sword Dao to self-destruct. By a stroke of luck, I didn't die but was reborn. Sadly, I can no longer leave the River of Sword Dao and can only study the Sword Dao here, spying on the evolution of the great Dao in the worlds. Actually, the reason I asked you to come is not just because of your sword intent but also because your clash with the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign reminded me of my past. Dare I ask what grievances you have with the Celestial Court?" Guan did not hide anything and replied, "I secluded myself in a great thousand world, wanting to stay away from trouble. By chance, I took on a disciple, little knowing he was the reincarnation of the Son of Heaven, attracting the heavenly court immortals. Even though I sent him to the misty immortal court, these immortals still won't let me go and am at a loss." At the end he gave a bitter smile. The Infinite Void Sword Ancestor listened and shook his head, saying, "The heavenly court immortals do indeed act overbearingly. Back then, I didn't intentionally offend that Supreme Immortal either, yet it still brought about disastrous consequences." Guan knew of the existence of the Immortal Cave Heaven. The name had appeared before when he used Lifespan Breakthrough, but he wasn't sure of the foundation of the Immortal Cave Heaven. The Infinite Void Sword Ancestor began recounting his past. Those grievances were not surprising. He had merely stepped up to save a group of cultivators being harmed by a demon, but it turned out that the demon was backed by a Supreme Immortal. Since then he had been beset by endless pursuits. As the two conversed, Guan began gathering information about the Celestial Court, and the Infinite Void Sword Ancestor did not hold back. The celestial positions in the Celestial Court, from low to high, are classified as Celestial God, Star Monarch, Main Deity, Immortal Monarch, Supreme Immortal, Celestial Tao Venerable, and the Supreme Celestial Emperor. The celestial positions in the celestial court are not entirely determined by cultivation level. With sufficient merit, one could also be promoted, though the gap between each celestial position wasn't excessively wide. Some Supreme Immortals are Miaozhen Daluo Immortals, while others have surpassed the Miaozhen Daluo Immortal realm. Additionally, the duties for each celestial position vary, as do the celestial Tao destinies they receive. Some immortals exist for combat and are extraordinarily powerful, while others who are less skilled in combat, hold high ranks but may have cultivation levels lower than their subordinates. Besides these celestial positions in the celestial court, there are also some formidable presences that only partake in destiny, not holding specific celestial offices, and would only appear when the celestial court was in turmoil. Through the infinite void sword ancestor, although Guan could not determine the exact realm of the immortals by their celestial positions, he could at least confirm one point. Within the celestial court, the most powerful was the celestial emperor. In Guan's previous life in Wuxia, there were also many legends, including a celestial court, but within that celestial court the celestial emperor was not the strongest. This was indeed a difference. Yet, they were both called celestial courts. Perhaps the mythology from Wuxia was related to the celestial court he was confronting. Could it be that the celestial emperor in myths was not the strongest due to the internal struggles of the celestial court? Guan silently speculated. The infinite void sword ancestor continued, I observed that the one who first provoked you was an immortal monarch. Therefore, the golden crow divine sovereign should indeed be the end of this cause and effect. As it involves the Son of Heaven, they certainly dare not call upon Sangtian. Although you could stand against the golden crow divine sovereign, it is best for you to think of more strategies. If you do not reject the celestial court, joining it is actually a good plan, or letting your disciple enter the celestial court to share the burden for you. Guan developed a favorable impression of the infinite void sword ancestor. His suggestion was also one Guan had considered. Despite having a vendetta with the celestial court, he was still being advised in this manner. The infinite void sword ancestor was indeed sincere with him. I will consider it, though I am quite curious about the fight for the Son of Heaven. Could you tell me about it, fellow Taoist? Guan agreed and then inquired further. See Teach Novel Fire, net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 701, Legend of the Celestial Court. The Great Tao was born from chaos. Since its birth, the cosmic planes have continuously multiplied and expanded. When the Celestial Court was born, no one knows. The Celestial Emperor is one of the oldest living beings. During his reign, the 3,000 great worlds have been destroyed and rebuilt. In other words, the existence of the 3,000 great worlds does not last as long as the Celestial Emperor's life. The infinite void sword ancestor looked at the teapot on the table, speaking with a leisurely tone, while Guan listened intently. Over the long years, the Celestial Emperor has had many children. The sons of heaven are innumerable, and perhaps there are more hidden among the human world. The talents of the sons of heaven are very high. As their cultivation level increases, their ambitions naturally grow. The struggle among the sons of heaven in the celestial court has become commonplace. I heard of such struggles even when I was in the immortal cave heaven. The top 10 sons of heaven have all grown up, even surpassing the celestial Tao Venerable. They have stayed in the position of Son of Heaven for too long, and their ambition has led them to covet the position of the Celestial Emperor. But as long as the Celestial Emperor remains, it is difficult for the Celestial Court to fall into chaos. The Celestial Emperor's favor towards a Son of Heaven influences the camp of the immortal gods. Some Sons of Heaven capture the Celestial Emperor's favor just by meeting him once, while others are cast into reincarnation for offending him, implicating the immortal gods who were close to them. Of course, there is another situation where after being abandoned by the Celestial Emperor, he still keeps them in mind. This happened a long time ago, so some immortal gods try to recruit those Sons of Heaven reincarnated in the human world to gain maximum benefits. The Celestial Emperor's heart is unfathomable by immortals or gods. The Celestial Emperor holds the greatest celestial power and can dismiss the destiny of immortal gods. He has even executed many Sons of Heaven. 4 ambitious immortal gods, The struggle in the celestial court is unpredictable in fortune and calamity. Your disciple probably once received the celestial emperor's favor, which is why some immortal gods tried to recruit, leading to dissatisfaction among other sons of heaven. The words of the infinite void sword ancestor left Guan deeply moved. The struggle between the celestial emperor and the sons of heaven was strikingly similar to the human world's royal family battles, only more cruel and complex. Some celestial gods, upon just being promoted to star monarch, are recruited and forced to take sides. Until their demise, they don't even realize they died due to the sons of heaven's struggle. Although the celestial court is the place of highest authority on the great Tao, how different are the immortal gods at the bottom of the celestial court from mortals? Merely stronger, but their life and death are equally beyond their control. Since you are aware of the sons of heaven's struggle, whether you enter the celestial court personally in the future or let a disciple join, you can take precautions and not be so passive. The infinite void sword ancestor said this as he picked up the teapot on the table and began pouring tea for Guan. Guan noted that the small furnace on the table was burning with a special Taoist fire, no less potent than the flames of the golden crow divine sovereign. Thank you, fellow Taoist, for telling me so much. I wonder why you have called me here and what I can do for you. Guan shifted his gaze to the infinite void sword ancestor and curiously inquired. The information the infinite void sword ancestor provided was very valuable to him. He didn't mind reciprocating within his abilities. Upon hearing this, the infinite void sword ancestor chuckled softly. I dwell in the river of sword Tao, eternal and undying. The battles within the great Tao are unrelated to me. What desires would I have? Existences like mine can be found within other rivers of the great Tao too, so I am not lonely. After pouring tea for Guan, he poured a cup for himself. The aroma of the tea filled the air, with smoke like some spirit beast dancing over the cup. So, fellow Taoist has no regrets concerning the immortal cave heaven? Guan inquired while raising the teacup and taking a gentle sip. This tea contained profound truths of the sword Tao, aiding in cultivation. The infinite void sword ancestor laughed. Once within the great Tao, naturally cutting off past karmic ties, I have no relation with the immortal cave heaven anymore. This time I sought you merely to discuss the sword Tao. I am very interested in the sacred heart sword Tao. I have comprehended it before, yet it is continually strengthening, and I can never fully understand it. Would fellow Taoists be willing to discuss the Tao with me? Of course, though it cannot be for too long. Guan pretended to hesitate, not wanting to delay picking medicinal herbs. The infinite void sword ancestor laughed heartily and proceeded to drink tea and discuss the Tao with Guan. This discussion lasted a month. Guan seized an opportunity to interrupt, then took his leave, promising to return again in the future. Only then did the infinite void sword ancestor not feel regretful. Upon returning to the celestial spirit great world, Guan first went to various areas of the medicine valley to pick medicinal herbs. Once all the mature medicinal herbs were harvested, he finally exhaled a sigh of relief. He suddenly felt as if he was being controlled by the medicinal herbs. Actually, picking for one less year wouldn't have harmed him, but the habit formed over many years left him unable to stop. Upon realizing this, Guan couldn't help but mock himself with a smile. Still not strong enough, he thought. When his strength reaches a level where he no longer cares about the income from 10 or 100 years of lifespan, his mentality should change. He returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless and began recalling his discussion of the Tao with the infinite void sword ancestor. The sword Tao achievement of the infinite void sword ancestor was undoubtedly the strongest head ever encountered, and even a month of such discussion benefited him greatly. The turmoil in the human world continued to evolve. Even though his grand disciples frequently came to him to chat about these matters, he paid them no heed. His thoughts were concentrated on the celestial court. He had to think about how to place profound mysterious Jinren within the celestial court without being detected. At the same time, he also had to think about how to resolve the celestial court's destiny. In the blink of an eye, 100 years passed. Guan made no progress concerning destiny, hence he chose a minor approach, frequently performing lifespan phantoms. With each lifespan phantom, he left behind a legend in the 3,000 great worlds. Fortunately, the reincarnated lives concerned themselves solely with their own cultivation, leaving no ties or karma, so their legends had limited impact. After a consecutive 10 lifespan phantoms, Guan's understanding of the path of Chi fortune reached another level. But it still wasn't enough. He still had a long way to go to fully comprehend the celestial Tao destiny. In the depths of the universe, the world gate still stood. The The celestial spirit god was meditating in front of the gate when he suddenly sensed something. Opening his eyes, he calculated with his fingers, his face changed dramatically and he stood up abruptly. He took a few steps forward and knelt halfway down in front of the world gate. Soon, a strong light burst from within the gate, illuminating the dim void, stretching the shadow of the celestial spirit god long. A figure slowly emerged from the world gate, an old man in white robes holding a horsetail whisk, with crane-white hair and youthful complexion. His figure appeared slightly thin and clouds rose beneath his feet. Behind him presented a sea of stars Dharma aspect, his eyes calm, seemingly containing two great worlds. The celestial spirit god kept his head low, not daring to look at the white-robed elder. At this moment the celestial spirit god was filled with shock. He didn't recognize this white-robed elder, but the elder's celestial Tao destiny was the heaviest he had ever seen in his life. The elder's immortal position must be exceedingly high, beyond his imagination. Why would such a being personally come to the celestial spirit great world? Sarch * the Nell Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Friend or foe? Is he here to find him or to find Guan? Or perhaps he has come for the Tai Immortal Monarch or the 72 Immortals of Golden Cave. His mind was in turmoil, filled with extreme tension. He didn't even dare to send a transmission to Guan, fearing being detected by this powerful immortal god. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 702, Heavenly Court's Heavenly Order. Rise, I have come this time for personal matters. The elder in white robe spoke, and these words made the celestial spirit god even more nervous, as coming for personal matters likely meant vendetta. Do you know the cause and effect of your son? The elder in white robes stopped in front of the celestial spirit god and asked with an indifferent expression. The celestial spirit god raised his eyes to look at him, hesitated for a moment and said, "Is he the reincarnation of the Son of Heaven?" Since the other party could ask this, it was certain they knew the situation. Hiding the facts he knew would only make things more troublesome. That's right, he is the Son of Heaven, Xianqing, and also my disciple. I entrusted Emperor Ziwei to cover up his cause and effect. To have kept it hidden for so long, I am quite satisfied. The response from the elder in white robes made the celestial spirit god sigh with relief. So he was Tianhao's former master. In that case he shouldn't be an enemy. I am titled Eternal Life Venerable, and I wish to meet supporting Tao Sword Venerable. Go and summon him for me, I will wait for him at the world gate. With an indisputable tone, the elder in white robes spoke, and upon hearing the term venerable, the celestial spirit god's pupils suddenly contracted. Inside he was in turmoil. He never expected such a legendary figure to come in person. He dared not refute and immediately rose to go find Guan. Eternal Life Venerable waved his sleeve, and the clouds around him dispersed, concealing his figure. 9 Spirit Continent, Jianghu Sect. Guan and the celestial spirit god met in the city. The two walked on the street, strolling while discussing Eternal Life Venerable. A being in the celestial court entitled as Venerable is an ancient legend. Venerable is an existence above Immortal Monarch. It's my first time seeing a Venerable. He came for Tianhao, claiming to see you, the celestial spirit god said with a tightly furrowed brow and a worried face. The arrival of Eternal Life Venerable to seek him was understandable, as after all, he had an inseparable cause with Tianhao. But why look for Guan? Tianhao had already left the celestial spirit great world, yet Eternal Life Venerable still sought Guan. Could it be to eliminate Guan? The celestial spirit god had deep interactions with Guan. He knew that if Guan were eradicated, he too would find it hard to escape death. Immortal gods are indestructible, but that's outside the celestial court. Inside, high-ranked immortal gods must die if their celestial court destiny is removed. Guan's expression remained unchanged as he looked around. He wasn't in a hurry to meet Eternal Life Venerable. As soon as Eternal Life Venerable arrived, he had already sensed it. This person's cultivation level was in the early stages of the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm, far surpassing the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign. Both being supreme immortals, the Golden Crow Divine Sovereign was merely a Miaojin Daoyuo Immortal, while Eternal Life Venerable reached the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm. No wonder he could be the master of the Son of Heaven. Guan wasn't afraid of the trouble because Eternal Life Venerable did not harbor hostility toward him, nor did he become his cause and effect nemesis. Ever since the life expectancy prediction upgraded, Guan would always receive hints of cause and effect hatred. Those destined to foster enmity with him numbered over 10 billion. This was still despite not venturing everywhere, making it hard to imagine how many enemies those cultivators, exploring the heavens, would encounter in a lifetime. Search * the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. I'll go meet him later. It's rare for you to come by, so why not take a look at the new novelties in the Jianghu sect? Guan softly laughed after hearing the celestial spirit god's words. Seeing Guan so calm made the celestial spirit god reassured as well, admiring him secretly. Guan's composure was enough to make him pursue for a long time. Despite the admiration, he could never wholeheartedly immerse himself in amusement. It wasn't until dusk that Guan followed the celestial spirit god to the world gate. Night fell. Guan returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. He entered his courtyard where only Xinzhen sat before the artifact refining cauldron. Seeing Guan return, Xinzhen turned her head, noticing the golden token in his hand, asked curiously, "What is that in your hand?" Guan walked over to his deck chair and sat down, lying on it. He raised the golden token with his right hand, seemingly wanting to admire it under the moonlight. "This is the Heavenly Court's heavenly order. With this token one may be ranked in the immortal class," Guan replied. Eternal Life Venerable sought him out specifically to offer such an opportunity, which appeared as a repayment for caring for Tianhao, but was very clear to him that Eternal Life Venerable wished to tie him completely to Tianhao, becoming part of the same faction. This Heavenly Court's heavenly order could allow one to directly enter the Celestial Court without undergoing trials, starting at a rank higher than a Celestial God. The Celestial Spirit God was taken aback when he heard about the power of this order, nearly shattering his beliefs. Unable to part with Tianhao, Guan naturally did not refuse this opportunity. He was now considering whom to give it to. Profound mysterious Jinren did not count, as he needed to prepare for both possibilities and not be led by Eternal Life Venerable. He decided to choose one disciple to ascend to immortality, based on who had the greatest desire. Rank in the immortal class. Xinzhen was taken aback, immediately stood up, squatted down beside Guan, and curiously examined the Heavenly Court's heavenly order. She inquired how the order came to be, and Guan did not hide it. Xinzhen had long known about the existence of the Celestial Court and Tianhao's origins through Guan. But even so, she was still amazed when she heard about Guan's engagement with the immortal gods. Even always at Guan's side, she couldn't fully gauge how high Guan's level was. "Who do you think this order should be given to?" Guan asked nonchalantly. Xinzhen thought for a moment and said, "Do you remember your other disciple, Yang Jian? Yang Jian once wished to pursue Anhao. Now that Anhao has already reincarnated and is ascending to immortality, why not let Yang Jian ascend and continue to pursue Anhao? I always feel there's something hidden when you want a disciple in the dojo to ascend." Having been in the Taoist field of the beginningless for so many years, how could she not realize the dojo's uniqueness? Moreover, having delved into the path of cause and effect, she understood the fearsome nature of cause and effect and thus did not wish for someone from the Taoist field of the beginningless to ascend to immortality. Guan glanced at Xinzhen, a smile touched his lips. "Guan, what is the Celestial Court really like? How many immortal gods are there and where are they?" Xinzhen curiously asked. Guan narrated all the information he had learned, which left Xinzhen full of emotion. It seems even the so-called immortal gods cannot escape the strife of interests, but what heights would true transcendence reach? Xinzhen sincerely sighed, and Guan did not answer her. He was also pondering this very question. Is the Supreme Celestial Emperor transcendent? If transcendent, why is there a struggle for the position of Celestial Emperor? And the countless vast great Taos still exist in places where even the Celestial Tao destiny cannot cover, indicating that the Celestial Tao is not the mightiest. That night, Guan and Xinzhen admired the moon together, discussing their imaginations of transcendence. Until the next morning, Guan left the Taoist field of the beginningless with Xinzhen and an Xan. On the way, an Xan learned of Guan's intention for Yang Jian to ascend to immortality and thus learned of the interaction between Guan and Eternal Life Venerable, which piqued her curiosity about Anhao's identity as the Son of Heaven. Yang Jian currently remained in the Taizong dynasty, but he was in long-term seclusion away from the court. The Taizong dynasty's foremost great general was Long Teng, whose presence allowed him to cultivate peacefully. Having reached the free immortal state, he was considering undergoing the reincarnation tribulation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 703. It was early autumn, and in the Holy King Palace, Yang Jian sat in the courtyard, sipping tea and enjoying the scenery. He wore a loose embroidered robe, his expression gentle, making it hard to believe he was once the great general who helped establish the Taizong dynasty with great achievements. I didn't expect you to be so leisurely now. Do you no longer have higher pursuits in life? A female voice rang out in the garden, startling Yang Jian to turn his head, only to see an Xen entering through the garden's archway, followed by Shenzhen, and behind Shenzhen was someone else. When Yang Jian saw who that last person was, his expression changed drastically, and he immediately stood up and knelt on the ground. Disciple Yang Jian pays respects to master. Guan walked at the end, and upon hearing Yang Jian's words, he did not respond immediately but instead glanced around the garden. This garden structure and scenery were exactly the same as a garden in the Third Medicine Valley from years ago, showing Yang Jian's deep longing for the past. An Xan approached Yang Jian and said irritably, "You still remember you have a master. So many years have passed, why haven't you come to see your master? Don't say you couldn't find him. If you had the heart, 1,000,000 years wouldn't be enough to find him?" Yang Jian looked up, helplessly said, "Although I have retired, I cannot leave the Taizong dynasty. The imperial dynasty has enemies all over the world, I truly feel powerless." An Xen snorted and said no more, moving to the side. Yang Jian watched as Guan approached, his face showing excitement. In the past 1,000,000 years he often imagined meeting Guan, but when the day finally came, his 1,000 words were stuck in his throat, unable to be expressed. "Stand up, let's sit and talk." Guan smiled, and his smile made Yang Jian feel relieved. Although they hadn't seen each other for many years, Guan had always been concerned about Yang Jian, never blaming him for not visiting. After all, the vastness of the world couldn't be ignored, and as long as Yang Jian held him in his heart, he was satisfied. After all, Yang Jian had grown up under his care and was once his most beloved disciple. Times had changed, and Yang Jian was no longer his most powerful disciple, but Guan did not assess his disciples based solely on strength. He nurtured disciples out of interest, never relying on them. Yang Jian quickly got up, then invited Shenzhen to sit down as well. After the four sat down, Guan began asking about Yang Jian's experiences over the years, and Yang Jian spoke at length while Shenzhen and an Xan listened intently. After an hour, Guan then stated his purpose, discussing the pros and cons of becoming an immortal god and even disclosed Anhao's background. Upon hearing that Anhao was the reincarnation of the Celestial Emperor's son, Yang Jian was shocked but found it reasonable. Even as the world was reshaped and the cultivation speed of human prodigies grew increasingly exaggerated, Anhao's impact on him was the greatest. Such a genius being the Celestial Emperor's son made sense. "I am willing." Facing Guan's gaze, Yang Jian agreed directly. Guan smiled, "No rush, you can think about it more, there will be no regrets later." Yang Jian said seriously, "Becoming an immortal god means losing freedom, but such an opportunity is something mortal spirits can never touch. How can I refuse my master's kindness? Moreover, as you said, it involves senior brother Anhao. I am willing to enter the celestial court on your behalf, aiding senior brother Anhao while also being your eyes within the celestial court." Having held power in the holy court and a high position in the Taizong dynasty, he understood what he needed to do after knowing the backstory of this cause and effect. Being his master's pawn, he had no worries and even looked forward to it. And he believed his master wouldn't let him down. After staying in the Taizong dynasty for so many years, he had grown tired of the struggles within the human dynasty. Participating in the Heavenly Sons contest in the celestial court thrilled him. Such feelings hadn't surfaced for a long time. Guan's lips turned upward. With Yang Jian's words, he naturally had no reason to refuse. He directly took out the Heavenly Court's heavenly order and placed it on the table. "When you're ready, just infuse your divine sense into this token, and the Heavenly Tao will summon you to the Celestial Court. The timing is up to you." With that, Guan stood up and turned to leave. An Xian and Shenzhen followed closely behind. See the novel _. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Yang Jian immediately got up, bowed to Guan's departing figure, and respectfully sent him off. Guan, along with an Xian and Shenzhen, vanished into thin air within the garden, and only then did Yang Jian lay his eyes on the Heavenly Court's heavenly order. Elsewhere, Guan and his companions arrived on a street in the imperial city, planning to enjoy themselves for 2 days before returning. Guess how long it will take him to reach the celestial court? Xinjun asked with a smile. An Exan was just about to speak when suddenly, a deafening roar sounded from afar. A majestic celestial might enveloped the entire world, causing everyone on the street to turn their heads. From the east direction of the imperial city, a white pillar of light appeared, piercing through the skies spectacularly. Xinjun was stunned. She sensed a tremendous celestial Dao destiny and immediately guessed it was Yang Jian. She didn't expect Yang Jian to act so swiftly. An Exan laughed. He's smart. The more he prepares, the more he hesitates. After all, he's not a lone wolf. Among the bustling street, only Guan hadn't turned his head. Before he came to find Yang Jian, he knew Yang Jian would agree and had even seen when Yang Jian would ascend to immortality. Now he pondered when to let the profound mysterious Jinren ascend and where that should happen. Yang Jian's ascension caused quite a stir, drawing great power from all over the Taizong dynasty, including Li Xiandao. During the ascension, Yang Jian confided his intent to ascend to immortality to Li Xiandao but didn't explain how he could do so, hoping Li Xiandao would take care of his descendants. Li Xiandao agreed, filled with shock and wonder. Could there truly be immortal gods? He always thought that so-called immortals were merely beings who achieved immortality through cultivation, like the former Holy Court claiming to be immortals, and now the Tao Court and the 100 sects of the human world claimed the same. He also called himself an immortal to his people. But today, witnessing the celestial Tao destiny taking Yang Jian away, he realized his understanding was overly simplistic. The ascension destiny connected to the celestial Tao light layer on the surface of the celestial spirit great world, causing global great powers to take notice. In the following days, more and more great powers arrived to witness Yang Jian's ascension. Yang Jian was not simply ascending. During the process, his physical body and soul underwent purification by the celestial Tao destiny, and his cultivation level surged incessantly. Feeling his rapidly rising aura, onlooking great power cultivators marveled, some even attempting to force their way through, only to have their physical bodies turned to ash by the celestial Tao destiny, with their souls nearly obliterated, deterring others from acting rashly. Subsequently, even the profound Yuan-free immortal arrived, including the master of the Tao court, Yuan Songzi. On the street, Guan calculated that the human world's fortunes had changed. Yang Jian's ascension marked an imminent leap in the celestial spirit great world's celestial Tao destiny because people worldwide began to believe in immortals, and the beliefs of cultivators could further bolster the celestial Tao destiny. The Taizong dynasty would thus become world-renowned, with Yang Jian becoming an immortal name passed down through all generations. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 704. Immortal Gods. Era. Yang Jian's ascension had a profound influence, spreading wider with time, and years later, the matter reached the Chengkuan sect, triggering widespread discussion. In the years that followed, the search for immortal traces and the pursuit of opportunities to ascend to immortality became the main theme of the human world's immortal cultivation realm. Even mortals began chasing such traces. Yang Jian never ventured beyond heaven, yet was able to ascend to immortality in the human world, indicating that the human world harbors immortal fate. Once this news broke, the vanished celestial Tao followers reappeared like bamboo shoots after a rain, filling the human world with legends of ascension, making this phenomenon increasingly mystical. Time passed quickly. 10,000 years later, the human world fully entered a mythical era, with all beings driven mad in the pursuit of immortal fate, leading more cultivators to pretend to have divine powers. In this process, some cultivators discovered the power of faith, causing the number of immortal gods in the human world to grow. 100,000 years after Yang Jian's ascension, the number of free immortals in the human world reached new heights, and factions, races, cities, and little worlds in the void outside heaven also became more numerous, with the celestial spirit great world moving towards its peak. Taizong continent, North Sea mountain ridge, mountain god temple. In the courtyard, profound mysterious Jinren knelt on the ground, gasping for breath, drenched in sweat. And Guan sat on the steps in front of him, scrutinizing him, a look of satisfaction in his eyes. If you intend to ascend in the future, don't use the name Jinren anymore, revert to your original name, henceforth called Li Xuanyao. Guan spoke, to which profound mysterious Jinren had no objection, as he had long left Mount Sanqing and the title of Jinren was no longer important. Senior, do I really have the qualifications to pass the Celestial Dao examination? Li Xuanyao looked up at Guan hesitantly asking. Guan had already told him the way to ascend to immortality. He needed to qualify for the immortal class by winning against immortal gods. Over hundreds of thousands of years, Guan taught him many divine skills, yet he had never won a victory. Do not underestimate yourself. Your opponent in the illusion realm was me. Looking across the world, there is no free immortal who could be your match. Guan softly chuckled, knowing fully well the strength of Li Xuanyao. Over the years, Guan had cultivated Li Xuanyao more than an Xian, although this was partly because an Xian was already on the right track. An Xian would walk the path of the reincarnation Dao Emperor, without needing to undergo the reincarnation tribulation. Li Xuanyao similarly had not undergone the reincarnation tribulation, as Guan was suppressing his cultivation level. The difficulty of challenges in the Celestial Dao examination depended on the trialist's cultivation realm. Guan had previously simulated a lifespan to know the process of this examination. This Celestial Dao examination was a chance for immortality Lucien had once stumbled upon and had already been handed over to Guan. The Celestial Dao Immortal Stone, containing opportunities for ascension, which Guan had understood from the Eternal Life Venerable, was concealed in almost every great world. It represented the Celestial Court's mercy to all beings of the human world. Those with extraordinary talent could ascend by passing the Celestial Dao examination within it, the immortal position determined by their own strength. The Celestial Dao Immortal Stone could not capture fate. Even the Eternal Life Venerable could not deduce its specific location. Whether or not one encounters it depends on fate. See the novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Of course, passing this examination is exceedingly hard. Lucien had already failed before. It is worth mentioning, if one passes the examination and then refuses to ascend, celestial punishment would ensue, as no one could refuse the celestial court. Truly? Li Xuanyao asked in surprise, trusting in Guan's judgment because Guan was the most powerful being under heaven. Oh, perhaps even beyond heaven he was the strongest. Naturally, from now on, call me master. Guan's words brought delight to Li Xuanyao, who promptly knelt down to take him as his master. Thereafter, Guan took out a small cauldron and said, "This is the mountain and river unparalleled cauldron and is a Dao treasure of Wuxia. I have temporarily sealed Wuxia's destiny, yet even so, it is still a formidable magical treasure. It will protect you when you are in mortal danger, just like every Wuxiji disciple has a Dao treasure." Yang Jian did not have one yet, but it was already prepared for when he returned from the celestial court to visit. Li Xuanyao received the mountain and river unparalleled cauldron with joy. The more he looked at it, the more he loved it. After he played with it for a while, Guan began guiding him to refine the cauldron. "It's time for you to ascend to immortality," Guan thought to himself while looking at Li Xuanyao. All of Li Xuanyao divine skills were personally imparted by him, leaving no shortcomings. Coupled with his demon god body, Guan was eager to see how Li Xuanyao would perform once he became a god. Meanwhile, the path of the Great Dao. The blood prison Great Saint sat cross-legged atop a mountain peak, surrounded by the aura of the Great Dao, casting an oppressive atmosphere across this void. In the distance, on the barren land, Fang Xian stood shoulder to shoulder with 5 cultivators, gazing at him. "I wonder if the second brother will succeed?" "He surely will. His talent in the primordial Dao Emperor far surpasses ours. The second primordial Dao Emperor among us is about to be born. It's truly exciting. We must also strive. Once all 7 of us become primordial Dao Emperors, we can challenge the Taoist Emperor to vindicate the primordial Dao Emperor." Haha, in actuality there's no need for us to act. Xuanji Emperor alone can vindicate with his talent. He is bound to become a primordial Dao Emperor. Fang Xian did not engage in the conversation with the other 5. He looked at the blood prison Great Saint, his gaze steady, confident in the latter's success. Fang Xian had already attained the primordial Dao Emperor, fully aware of its power, and no longer deemed it necessary to compete with the Taoist Emperor. In his view, no great Dao destiny could compare to the primordial Dao Emperor. The Taoist Emperor relied on combat and deprivation, the celestial Dao destiny on faith, while the primordial Dao Emperor only required enlightenment. The 3,000 great Daos never mentioned one Dao devouring another, thus he felt the primordial Dao Emperor was the truly correct path. Nevertheless, he had no reason to dampen the enthusiasm of his sworn brothers. More than fretting over whether the blood prison great saint would succeed, he feared that success would lead to separation. Since the destruction of the battle court, Fang Xian drifted alone, with the blood prison great saint as his only confidant and support, and he did not wish for him to leave. However, if return was his chosen path, he would not obstruct it. At this moment, an overwhelming pressure descended, compelling Fang Xian and the 5 others to turn their heads, seeing a massive black hole appearing in the depths of the void, seemingly about to devour from the ends of the earth. From within the black hole, numerous dreadful auras emerged, clearly indicating an incoming force. Prepare for battle, there are always those seeking shortcuts. Fang Xian spoke emotionlessly. As the heaven-encompassing free immortal, bolstered by the primordial Tao Emperor, he would not fear anything short of a golden immortal. Upon hearing this, the other 5 each brought out their magical treasures, not surprised by the arrival of adversaries. This group had plagued them for tens of thousands of years, coveting Fang Xian's body as a primordial Tao Emperor to understand its mysteries. Fang Xian was the first to fly forth, his formidable aura erupting suddenly, matching the combined aura of the mysterious force within the black hole. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 705. Dojo Expansion. It has been 100 years since Li Xuanmiao started calling Guwen his master. The human world has not changed much, with life and death occurring daily, while the 100 great sects and the Tao court in the immortal cultivation realm are still in friction, leaving the situation unclear. On this day after the new year, Guwen brought Li Xuanmiao to the dust world, a great thousand world more prosperous than the celestial spirit great world, even hiding an innate golden immortal. He planned for Li Xuanmiao to ascend to immortality in dust world. To this end he even altered Li Xuanmiao's cause and effect, making him a native creature of dust world. Not only did Li Xuanmiao's karma appear this way, but memories of him also emerged among the great cultivators of the world. Now Li Xuanmiao is a renowned talent known across dust world. He practically changed the entire dust world's cause and effect, such as the power of a Tao extreme Daoyuo immortal. Even the celestial gods of this world were unaware. At the ocean's edge, on the beach, Li Xuanmiao held the celestial Tao immortal stone, looking at Guwen with a serious expression. Guwen smiled and said, "Don't worry too much, you've already experienced the trials inside, only this time your opponents are immortal gods. To be cautious, you'll first hide your memories of me, and after you achieve immortality for 10,000 years, these memories will resurface." Li Xuanmiao took a deep breath and nodded slightly. Guwen immediately waved his sleeve. A gust of wind sent Li Xuanmiao into a daze. When he regained consciousness, Guwen was nowhere to be seen. He looked down at the celestial Tao immortal stone in his hand and immediately probed it with his divine sense. After the time of 1 stick of incense, the sand beneath his feet suddenly erupted with a skyward blast, shooting straight into the clouds, followed by a brilliant light forming a celestial Tao beam, as spiritual energy in the world frantically surged toward him. He passed the heavenly Tao trial. Beyond the heavens, deep in the cosmos, at the world gate, the celestial god guarding the dust world opened his eyes, displaying a peculiar expression. "There are people in this realm who can pass the evaluation of the celestial Tao immortal stone? Impressive." The celestial god muttered to himself, his face showing a look of anticipation. Having an immortal god born in this world also benefits him, as he will receive rewards from the celestial court, and this newly ascended immortal's position will surely be higher than his, possibly allowing them to become acquainted. Many ascended gods and trial gods hold nostalgia, and some great thousand worlds are rich in heritage because of their numerous immortal gods, far surpassing other great thousand worlds. He stood up, intending to go and meet the new immortal god, where he could offer some advice as a form of greeting, establishing familiarity. Guwen returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless, feeling elated that Li Xuanmiao was about to join the immortal class. It was uncertain what level of celestial Tao immortal position Li Xuanmiao could attain. According to the Eternal Life Venerable, whether by using the Heavenly Tao command or through the celestial Tao immortal stone, the immortal position will be above the celestial gods. The Eternal Life Venerable also listed other methods of achieving immortality, so he would not guess that Guwen had a celestial Tao immortal stone in his possession. There are dozens of methods to become immortal, and any path involving the heavenly ascension stairs is a superior one. Most celestial gods are appointed through recommendations from immortal gods or selected from participating in heavenly soldier trials. Even the most gifted among celestial spirit gods, unable to advance through the celestial Tao immortal stone, required recommendations from immortal gods. Talent is the least noticeable in the celestial court because there are so many gifted geniuses aspiring to become immortals. Even the greatest talent in a single great thousand world is considered insignificant within the great Tao. Guan strolled leisurely along the small river in the dojo. Ahead, someone was cultivating by the river, none other than Emperor Tianhong. After many years, Emperor Tianhong had awakened some memories of immortal gods, making him cherish his time cultivating in the Taoist field of the beginningless even more, as he knew he would eventually return to the celestial court. Hearing footsteps, Emperor Tianhong opened his eyes and turned his head, and upon seeing it was Guan, he quickly got up and bowed to Guan. "Continue your cultivation, I'm just taking a stroll." Guan said with a smile. Li Zuamio's ascension made him view Emperor Tianhong more favorably. Without necessity, he indeed need not oppose the celestial court, as he preferred peaceful, enlightenment-seeking days over battles and killings. As he passed by Emperor Tianhong, the latter breathed a sigh of relief and continued meditating and cultivating. Despite having spent many years together, he still felt great pressure facing Guan. Guan, hearing his inner thoughts, did not mind much either. As the number of people in the Taoist field of the beginningless grew, he could not befriend every disciple as that would be too exhausting. Among the third-generation disciples, only Shangguan Xiener seemed interesting to him, and he was lazy to bother even with Zizai, whom he had taken to see the world. After walking 100 miles further, Guan saw Lu Zidao, celestial demon child's disciple, sparring with Jiang Lan, and Xin's second disciple in swordsmanship. The two used neither mana nor divine skills, only exchanging sword techniques, their movements sharp and swift. Upon noticing Guan approaching, their faces changed, intending to stop, but Guan's voice reached them. "Don't stop, I'm just passing through." Zia the Novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hearing this, Lu Zidao and Jiang Lan's eyes sharpened, and their movement techniques became even faster. The third-generation disciples all wanted to win Guan's favor, and they took this rare opportunity to showcase their talent in front of him more earnestly. Guan bypassed them and entered the mountains and forests. If the dojo's disciples reach 100 in the future, it might need expanding. Guan silently contemplated as high realm disciples' combat would inevitably have a broad impact, even if restrained. Expanding the dojo required a lifespan. He planned to incorporate the entire nine-spirit continent into the Taoist field of the beginningless. His consideration stemmed from seeing the future, where the Jianghu church would face calamity, causing chaos within the sect and significant casualties among the continent's beings. This was caused by internal strife, and Guan still would not interfere, perfectly aligned with his wish for Jianghu church to stand independently. He had sheltered the Jianghu church for so long, and continuing to protect it would violate his principles, as relying on the Taoist field of the beginningless to become the world ruler would be against his creed. The Jianghu church could be the world's premier sect but could not solely rely on the Taoist field of the beginningless. The world's leading sect must not only be strong but also command public respect. An hour later, Guan leisurely returned to his courtyard. As he passed the artifact refining cauldron, Shenzhen suddenly asked, "Can you discern Yang Jian's current immortal position now?" Since Yang Jian ascended to immortality, she had been curious about this and asked many times. Without stopping his steps, Guan replied, "Still can't, but you'll know when he returns." He had to go back inside to read. Recently Shangguan Xiener had another magnificent work, and he needed to appreciate it carefully. Shenzhen pursed her lips, secretly resolving not to let Shangguan Xiener surpass her. She too should start writing again. As the sun set and the moon rose, a night passed. The next morning, Guan walked out of the house holding a book in his hand with a smile on his face. "Where are you going again?" Shenzhen asked curiously. Guan glanced at her and said, "Going to Jianghu's sect." "He'll go too." Shenzhen immediately stood up, guessing what Guan was about to do and wanting to join in on the excitement. Guan did not refuse her and headed straight to the courtyard gate. Just as he reached the gate, an Xan appeared out of nowhere, frowned and said, "Master, I received news that Yuan Luo has turned into a demon. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 706. Inheritance of Heaven and Earth. Yuan Luo, once the top genius of the Jianghu sect, is now a free immortal famous throughout the world. His descent into a demon is a great blow to the Jianghu sect, which prides itself on being an orthodox Taoist sect. An Xian received the news that Yuan Luo, during his training outside, encountered many sections. For some reason he suddenly turned into a demon, slaughtering tens of thousands of cultivators, including hundreds of fellow disciples. The news spread back to the Jianghu sect and they couldn't contain it. Other sects are also using this incident to damage the reputation of the Jianghu sect. An Xian felt that this was an unprecedented crisis for the Jianghu sect, and if not handled properly, it could affect its future development. Let nature take its course. This calamity can just test the resolve of the Jianghu sect, Guan replied casually. Yuan Luo hadn't truly become a demon. He merely acted out in a fit of rage. In fact, he had always had a streak of fierceness since childhood, and the higher-ups of the Jianghu sect were aware of it. As the reincarnation of Chaos Grudge Luo, Yuan Luo's power would grow with his resentment and anger. During his conflicts with the Tao court, he became increasingly aware of this and began consciously allowing himself to enter extreme emotions. Currently, Yuan Luo isn't powerful enough, at least not capable of endangering the world. The Chaos Grudge Luo is sealed, so he can only borrow a little power. In fact, aside from Yuan Luo, there are other hidden dangers within the Jianghu sect. The rules of the righteous Tao sometimes incite hatred and can become tools for those with intentions. Upon hearing Gu An's words, an Xian realized something. She stepped aside to make way for Gu, and watching the departing backs of Gu and Shenzhen, an Xian sighed slightly. She understood that her master had grown tired of caring for the Jianghu sect. Although she got along well with the Jianghu sect, she wouldn't go against or doubt her master's decision. An Xian stopped thinking about it and turned to leave. Recently, she had been immersed in the reflections of reincarnation, gaining deeper insights into the primordial Tao Emperor. She increasingly felt that the primordial Tao Emperor was unfathomable, and it was a path with limitless potential. She was resolute in her determination to become a primordial Tao Emperor. The disciples of Wuxia all walk the path of the primordial Tao Emperor, and she aims to become the first primordial Tao Emperor within the beginningless, aside from Guan. The sun was bright, and amidst the surrounding mountains Xiaolan, in a white dress, walked on the stone path beside a stream, curiously admiring the scenery along the way. Senior Sister Xiaolan. A voice came from the side, and a young man in blue descended from the sky, landing beside her with a smile on his face. The blue-clothed man's figure was tall, with an elegant demeanor, and his smile felt as gentle as a spring breeze. Xiaolan nodded towards him and asked, "Junior brother Qing, you're here too? Master said that the Ting master wanted to see me, so I came. I didn't expect I wasn't the only one. As it seems, there might be other disciples as well." Junior brother Qing smiled. Xiaolan couldn't help but become interested. It seemed the Ting master had something major to arrange. The two continued forward, chatting along the way. On their journey, they encountered other disciples, heightening their curiosity about the purpose of this trip. Upon arriving at a courtyard, they saw a dozen or so disciples waiting there, and Xiaolan also spotted Zhao Rushan. Even he's here, it must be something significant. Xiaolan thought silently. Zhao Rushan now wielded immense power, second only to Ting Master Yuan Songzi within the Tao court. Everyone regarded Zhao Rushan as the next Ting Master. Not only Xiaolan, but the other disciples were also surprised to see Zhao Rushan. Zhao Rushan sat beside Yuan Songzi in a black robe, exuding a domineering aura. His gaze was penetrating, and except for a few, most didn't dare meet his eyes. Yuan Songzi looked at the group and said with a smile, "Everyone who's supposed to be here is here. I have something to announce today." The disciples stood in a line, not daring to sit like Zhao Rushan. Xiaolan wasn't necessarily afraid, but she didn't want to be too close to Yuan Songzi or Zhao Rushan. She spent years in seclusion, avoiding the factional struggles within the court as much as possible. Although Yuan Songzi had taken her to the path of the Great Tao, her master wasn't in the same faction as Zhao Rushan. "Ting Master, what has happened? Could it be that the 100 sects in the human world are planning to besiege us?" Junior brother Qing couldn't help but ask first. His words made the other disciples tense up. Over the years, there have been more sects causing trouble for the Tao court. Various kinds of conflicts have been reported internally. The Tao court flaunts itself as the righteous Tao and the world ruler, but their handling of certain matters has left the disciples dismayed. Everyone could feel the pressure from other sects and perceive the Tao court's growing weakness. Normally they are dissatisfied with the upper echelons, but when it comes to going to war with the 100 sects, they feel apprehensive. Today's situation is unlike the past. The Tao court indeed lacks the power to suppress the entire human world. That's not it, but the situation you foresee will happen sooner or later. Yuan Songzi smiled softly. His words made the disciples' faces change dramatically, but seeing his smile, they felt he wasn't worried. Perhaps the Ting master already had a plan. Thinking this way, the disciples felt at ease. You all are the brightest disciples of the Tao court, and your reputation is extremely high. I plan to let you inherit the various legacies of the Tao court. Once the Tao court is dissolved in the future, you can establish your own sections. Are you confident? When Yuan Songzi said this, his smile didn't fade, as if he was discussing something trivial. Upon hearing this, the courtyard burst into an uproar. The disciples were all shocked and began to object. Ting master, what do you mean? Why dissolve the Tao court? We are not afraid to fight, even if it means a life and death struggle with the 100 sects. We are not afraid. That's right, with all the storms we've seen since the Tao court's establishment, what's there to fear? Exactly, Ting master, why don't we just start a war with the 100 sects and catch them off guard? While the disciples were passionately excited, Xiaolan kept silent, her eyes fixed on Yuan Songzi. She didn't think Yuan Songzi was a coward. Back when the undefeated Emperor clan wanted to kill them, Yuan Songzi showed no fear and was at the forefront. The combined 100 sects of the human world are no match for the undefeated Emperor clan. Yuan Songzi raised his hand, signaling everyone to calm down. The group could only suppress their emotions. The Tao court has presided over the world for 1,000,000 years. It has been long enough. In fact, you might not know that the Tao court itself wasn't founded by me alone. It was formed by the unification of the greatest sects from the great heaven and earth before the world's reformation, and I merely facilitated it. After the Tao court dissolves, you will establish your sects, creating a new order for the era. This itself is a form of legacy. Yuan Songzi spoke seriously, paused, and continued, of course, the Tao court will not easily be dissolved. At the very least, it should make other sects realize how precious this throne is and serve as a warning for future generations, thus better benefiting all living beings under heaven. CTH Novel Fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 707. Vast Law, Great Light, God Honor. Inside the grotto heaven, Guan and Xiaolan sat on the mountain cliff, chatting while enjoying the scenery. The Ting master's vision is indeed grand, having already thought of dissolving the Tao court, but surely the other higher-ups will not agree. Xiaolan spoke of Yuan Songzi's decision, her face full of sentiment. She did not feel regret about the dissolution of the Tao court. She thought Yuan Songzi had made a good point, as the troubles of the Tao court could no longer be resolved by just 1 or 2 wars. Xiaolan looked at Guan, curiously asking, Brother Gu, with your cultivation level seeing this world, who do you think will be the sect to unify the realm next? Guan shook the wine gourd, smiling, how could I know? Even if I did, that would be a heavenly secret. Xiaolan pouted. Through these years, the two often sparred, and no matter how strong she became, she was never a match for Guan. She always felt Guan was stronger than Yuan Songzi. Guan's existence made her find the disputes between major sects quite laughable. The truly great powers were hidden in the human world, watching the tides rise and fall. If someone like Guan were willing to take action, they would surely be able to overturn the world's structure. Thinking of this, Xiaolan looked at Guan with eyes full of admiration. Guan was not interested in Yuan Songzi's decision, for it had appeared in his vision long ago. He could even foresee the situation in the human world after the Tao court dissolved. Have you gained any deeper insights into the primordial Tao Emperor recently? Guan changed the subject and asked. An Xian was already very close to the primordial Tao Emperor. She would become the first primordial Tao Emperor beyond the path of the great Tao, and once successful, the primordial crystal would disperse to the 3,000 great worlds, entering a new stage of the primordial Emperor road. Xiaolan's aptitude was not bad, and combined with the accumulation of the innate reincarnation skill, she had high comprehension of the path of reincarnation. Xiaolan nodded and said, yes, but it feels like I still need to continue projecting to reach the primordial Tao Emperor. Recalling the reincarnation projection, she felt astonished. The cultivation method of the primordial Tao Emperor was indeed too profound. Even though she had not personally experienced reincarnation, she had memories of reincarnation, and those memories were not false. She was now very curious about how strong the real primordial Tao Emperor was. She believed Guan was the primordial Tao Emperor. After all, he was the one who led her on this path, though she still couldn't figure out how strong Guan was, as the gap between their strengths was too vast. She began to discuss her cultivation dilemmas with Guan. Guan accompanied her for 3 days before leaving. After leaving the Tao court, he first went around collecting medicinal herbs. After profound mystery left, the mountain god temple was considered abandoned, and Guan had already moved those herbs to the Taoist field of the beginningless. To commemorate this place, he left a legacy in the mountain god temple. After picking mature medicinal herbs outside the dojo, Guan returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless, leisurely walking towards the peak where he resided. Everything was moving in a positive direction, and next he looked forward to his own progress. When he achieved a lifespan of 100 million years, he would go to breakthrough. CTH Novel F. IR. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. What realm would be above Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal? He could first invest some of his lifespan to probe the name of a higher realm, but he did not do so, knowing that names meant nothing and preferred to keep its mystery, which made him more expectant. The sun set in the west, casting a long shadow of Guan. On a grand and magnificent hall, Long Mie, also known as the Celestial Destruction Divine Dragon, walked forward with powerful strides, wearing golden armor, valiant in appearance, as if dragon shadows circled around him. This hall was vast, with immortal mist covering the floor, and huge stone pillars stood upright, each coiled with different flood dragons, all living creatures, some asleep, some watching the celestial destruction god. He advanced all the way to the white jade stairs, which had 100 steps, towering 100 zhang high, and at the top sat a giant azure lotus seat, upon which sat a giant immortal. This giant immortal, though sitting, exceeded 1,000 zhang in height, wearing a large dark robe, with white hair but an exceptionally youthful face, ruddy complexion, and a jade hairpin inserted above with the tail end ablaze. This immortal was a supreme immortal of the celestial court, titled Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord. Celestial Destruction God greets the Divine Lord. The Celestial Destruction God bowed and raised hands in a salute, his tone respectful. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord opened his eyes, and the entire hall grew even brighter. He looked down at the Celestial Destruction God and slowly spoke, "Your past this Lord already knows. You have rendered significant contributions to the Celestial Court. This Lord will assist you in advancing to Star Monarch. Before that, you will cultivate in this Lord's dojo and strive to achieve Taiching Golden Immortal as soon as possible." "Thank you, Divine Lord," replied the Celestial Destruction God, his tone not too surprised nor overly excited. Profound mystery. The two sides had been in constant friction, accumulating hatred over hundreds of thousands of years, waiting to explode. The Tao Court, after all, was a colossal entity that dominated the heavens and the earth for millions of years. Its depths were unimaginable to the world, and even when facing attacks from all over the world, they could still exhibit resilience. Sarch * The Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. 100,000 years later. The war in the human world still had not ended, and constantly new outstanding talents emerged between heaven and earth, having to venture to the ancient battlefields to prove themselves. Within the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan was lecturing disciples, including even the third-generation disciples. In recent years, 3 new members were added. Mo Xuandi, the second disciple of Jiang Shishou, Li Qing, disciple of Emperor Tianhong, and Chang Jie, disciple of Tianbai. Among these 3, only one came from the Qingkuan sect. The other 2 were common people from the 9-spirit continent. Guan was sharing his insights on the primordial Tao Emperor, and even the third-generation disciples could listen and benefit greatly. He intended to make the beginningless a formidable force on the primordial Emperor road. The primordial Tao Emperor would surely surpass the Taoist Emperor one day. By then, many sects would join, but no one would think of the connection between the primordial Tao Emperor and the beginningless. After finishing his lecture, Guan invited the disciples to ask questions one by one, and the most active ones were the third-generation disciples, eagerly seeking knowledge. This time, Guan was very patient with them. Although he usually was not interested in his disciples, when it came to cultivation he was fair. He carefully answered every question from each disciple and provided a suitable path for their cultivation. Ancestor, the primordial Tao Emperor seeks insight from nature, not the path of killing enemies. What is your view of this calamity in the human world? Immortality suddenly asked, his gaze fixed on Guan. He appeared to be in his early 20s, with skin not very fair, and his brows were marked with bitterness due to years of frowning. He came from the Jianghu sect, with parents who died in the war against the Tao court, harboring a long-held seed of revenge. Upon hearing his question, Jianghu sighed but did not stop him, hoping Guan could enlighten Immortality. Guan looked at Immortality and said, "Since ancient times there have been natural and man-made disasters, each with its own cause and effect. While I do not like conflict, I do not abhor it either. Everything you see is a result of the Tao rules. The calamity in the human world stems from ambition, and more beings are swept along by the flow against their will." It served as a transit point for the lower realm of the immortal gods, where many immortals would exchange information or conduct transactions. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. The Ting Master is still alive, just gone to outer heaven. The legacy is still there, passed on to the disciples, and now it's only the name of the Tao court that is gone. What's there to regret? Xiaolan said calmly, gazing into the distance. If Guan couldn't hear her inner thoughts, he might truly believe she didn't care. However, with the Tao court about to become a thing of the past, the living must look forward. Brother Gu, for the first time, I feel the fierce current of the human world's greater situation. Even the strong Ting Master and the Tao court couldn't withstand the overwhelming will of the masses. The so-called Taoist lineage, what is its true meaning of existence? Xiaolan asked softly, her eyes subtle. Over the years, she felt the pressure on the Tao court, with endless enemies coming from all directions, everything in heaven and earth condemning the Tao court, and even many disciples within the Tao court reflecting on what went wrong with it. However, the fact is, the 100 sects of the human world wanted to overturn the Tao court, and the Tao court lacked absolute strength to suppress them. If it were only a matter of strength, it would be fine, but the fall of the Tao court was so disgraced, collapsing in an evil guise. Years later, would the world think of the Tao court as the demon sect? A Taoist lineage originally serves the purpose of spreading the Tao, imparting knowledge, mutually discussing the Tao, and jointly promoting the exploration of the great Tao. What you worry about may not happen. Although the Tao court's current reputation is poor, over the long years, it has helped many living beings, and those deeds will be remembered by those with heartfelt appreciation and eventually etched into history. Guan replied, stating facts. Not to mention those beings who are grateful or aspiring towards the Tao court, the 100 sects of the human world will eventually follow in the Tao court's footsteps, and then, later generations wishing to topple them will naturally rehabilitate the Tao court to slander them. Right and wrong, black and white will be judged by future generations, and indeed these distinctions will disappear over time. In this era, looking back, how many people remember the Holy Court and Immortal Dynasty? In the red dust of the Great Tao, nothing truly matters. So-called history is just a possession of the human world. Discussing history in the face of the Great Tao seems somewhat ridiculous. Guan finally understood why those great power cultivators viewed the masses with indifference. Living long enough, one realizes that all things seem to go through a kind of reincarnation, where good and bad will both turn to dust, and what can be done eventually becomes futile. Of course, Guan merely lamented slightly. He always felt he was human, not immortal, and the most important thing for people is emotion. He wouldn't deliberately erase his feelings. Even he has such complex thoughts. let alone those cultivators with stronger ambitions. This item is truly dreadful. LV Xian could already envision the terrifying scenes of various heavens waging war for the sake of immortal gods, surely much more dreadful than the human world battles that lasted hundreds of thousands of years before. Guan looked at LV Xian and said, "Now that you're back, spend some more time cultivating in the dojo. Unlike Qin Chuan, you're not entangled by the sect." Faced with his instruction, LV Xian naturally dared not refuse and could only agree. Guan waved his hand, signaling LV Xian to withdraw. Once the door was closed, Guan brought up the attribute panel. Name, Guan, lifespan, 1487 902/99, 890, 816 785 408, physique, primordial Tao creation body, cultivation level, perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm, approaching 100 trillion year lifespan. By then he would be able to break through. Thinking about reaching a higher realm soon, Guan couldn't help but feel excited. Even without an imminent strong enemy, he enjoyed the feeling of continuously growing stronger, especially when he could compare himself with others. Besides the next realm, he was curious about what features 100 trillion year lifespan would unlock. Would there be another feature upgrade? The enhancements in life expectancy prediction suited his taste. Although occasional hints would disturb his mind, knowing how many potential foes there were and who they were brought him more anticipation. Since I have so much lifespan, should I use 10 million years for a lifespan reincarnation? Guan suddenly had a whim. Because of the long family causality, he dared not easily implement lifespan reincarnation, opting more to use lifespan projection now. Anyway, he had interfered with enough causality, why trouble himself unnecessarily? Even aside from him, other great power cultivators also changed the causality of others, heavens, and universe on their path to greater strength. The causality of the great Tao has never been fixed, constantly changing. True glimpse into the future isn't seeing one outcome, but seeing countless outcomes, choosing the most suitable one for oneself. With this thought, Guan immediately initiated the lifespan reincarnation. An overdue prompt appeared before his eyes, symbolizing the imminent start of lifespan reincarnation. Beneath the blue sky, endless mountains undulated like the spines of ancient dragon beasts, fierce and spiky. On a mid-mountainside, Jianghu and Su Yu sat cross-legged together, gazing at a landscape filled with the sitting figures of heavenly soldiers as far as the eye could see. Su Yu suddenly opened his eyes, looking up towards the celestial vault. Shortly after, Jianghu also opened his eyes. More and more heavenly soldiers opened their eyes, all gazes directed towards the celestial vault. In the vast expanse of blue sky appeared a crack, lightning woven through it, as if the celestial vault had been cleaved open, frightening and daunting. From within the crack stepped a figure, radiating golden light like a brilliant sun in the sky. It was the celestial calming god. Upon seeing the celestial calming god, all the heavenly soldiers stood up. After their previous defeat on the path of the great Tao, they had been cultivating in this realm, waiting for the celestial calming god to arrange a new trial. They were still a long way from ascending to immortality and becoming gods, far enough to make many feel like giving up, yet helplessly so. Next will be the final trial. Only 100,000 heavenly soldiers can emerge, and these top 100,000 will gain celestial Tao destiny. Once their cultivation level is sufficient, they can become gods like me. The voice of the celestial calming god resonated across the entire world, causing every heavenly soldier's breathing to quicken, Jianghu included. Yet Jianghu felt a bit regretful. He wanted more time to accumulate cultivation. Compared to other heavenly soldiers, he was too young, and facing the final trial now was quite a disadvantage for him. Though his cultivation level didn't hold an advantage, Jianghu still had some confidence. 100,000 spots, more than he had anticipated. Su Yu smirked, saying in a low voice, "Looks like some immortal gods need to use us, blessings or curses unknown." Jianghu didn't care after hearing this. Ever since following the celestial calming god, they had undertaken various missions, escaping death multiple times. Having come this far, he was determined to ascend to immortality. He would ascend not just for himself. He aimed to find his parents in reincarnation and visit Master Gu and Li Ya. In his view, Master Gu and Li Ya had long passed away. Over 1,000,000 years had passed, and the foundation of that realm was far from enough to allow the two to live till today, not to mention their talent wasn't extraordinary. Jianghu took a deep breath, fists clenched, with a fire of determination burning in his eyes. Su Yu glanced at him and couldn't help but shake his head. This guy was getting hyped again. Even after all these years together, so you still couldn't understand why he got so easily excited. This final trial will begin in this realm. You need not kill each other but will decide victory through reincarnation. The top 100,000 heavenly soldiers who emerge from reincarnation will succeed, while the remainder will be lost in reincarnation forever, never to transcend. The voice of the celestial calming god sounded once more, dampening the fervor of the heavenly soldiers. Lost in reincarnation forever? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Bang! A thunderous roar suddenly erupted from behind, engulfing Zhu Shi and her group in dazzling light, followed by an unfathomable strong wind. At the same time, in the depths of the universe before the world gate, a celestial god opened his eyes, reflecting the scene of the Taiwei Great World within them. From the universe's perspective, the Taiwei Great World appeared as a glowing continent, surrounded by countless little worlds. At this moment, the glowing continent was trembling, with billowing black smoke emerging from a certain area. Where does this person come from? The celestial god muttered to himself, beginning to calculate with his fingers, his expression growing increasingly strange. War Spirit Holy Mansion. Taishangju. It's actually him? He's still alive. The celestial god furrowed his brows, then stood up, turning to walk into the world gate. A storm gusted from the depths of the universe, but the world gate remained unmoved, unaffected. The storm lasted for a long time, and when the turbulence subsided, the celestial god had not returned. On the other side of the universe, the strong light of the Taiwei Great World was gradually fading. The white-haired man suddenly appeared in the void, holding a person in his hand. Does the War Spirit Holy Mansion intend to oppose the celestial court? The person held by the white-haired man was an old Taoist with an immortal aura, none other than the immortal monarch Han Sha, hidden within the divine court. He could see the cause and effect of the white-haired man, linked to the War Spirit Holy Mansion, a powerful court outside the jurisdiction of the celestial court. The white-haired man, Taishangju, ignored him, grabbing his head and stepping into the void. A time-space rift appeared in front, into which he stepped, dragging the immortal monarch Han Sha with him, disappearing without a trace as the rift quickly closed as if nothing had happened. But the celestial Tao immortal light of the Taiwei Great World was fading, indicating a titanic battle had just occurred. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 713, Tao Saint Heart's Wish. The waves incessantly washed up on the beach, crashing against the rocks, sending up sprays of water. In the distance, demon birds hovered over the sea, wary of approaching the shore. On the beach, Guan sat in meditation, his eyes closed, the whirlpool of spiritual energy around him slowly dissipating. The sky gradually turned yellow, dusk nearing. A meteor streaked across the sky, piercing the sea of clouds, aiming towards Guan. Just as the meteor was about to strike Guan, he suddenly raised his hand and caught the meteor in his grasp. He opened his right palm to reveal a white jade stone, the size of a pigeon egg, in his hand, refracting a crystalline light, exuding a mysterious beauty. Guan slowly opened his eyes, looking at the white jade stone in his hand with a complex expression. He had just received the inheritance memories of lifespan reincarnation, his mind awash with emotions and thoughts. He had experienced another life. This lifetime was far longer and grander than the previous ones combined. Perhaps it was related to Gu An's current cultivation level, as this lifetime's cultivation far surpassed the former ones, even reaching the realm of Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal. The endpoint of lifespan reincarnation varies with the state of one's cultivation beforehand. Even with unparalleled talent, one might still succumb to certain misfortunes. Unlike previous reincarnations, this reincarnation body still lived. More precisely, it lived in Gu An's current timeline, destined to die in the future. The reincarnation body was born in the War Spirit Holy Mansion, a Taoist lineage as ancient as Ling Mountain, unrelated to the battle court. Named Taishangju, like other reincarnation bodies, he was born in suffering and grew through countless hardships. The current Taishangju had already reached the cultivation level of Miaojin Daluo Immortal. He would fall to the celestial court when he achieved Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. Guan could sense that if he tried to contact Taishangju, he would face unimaginable repercussions of karmic retribution. Taishangju had already vaguely sensed his own karma, so before leaving the Great Thousand World, he scattered many white jade stones imbued with his Dao intent and hidden obsessions. Fearing exposure of his connection with Guan, he created these white jade stones. While they appeared to spread fortune, only his true self could fully comprehend them. Reincarnation is unstoppable, and past lives will eventually become fleeting clouds, yet obsessions might transcend reincarnation. Guan toyed with the white jade stone, pondering silently. Lu Han's obsession was his son Lu Qiuxian. Yang Xian's was the sacred heart sword Dao. The Black Profound Emperor's was his senior sister, Fairy by Xian. The Emperor of Eternal Lives' obsession was Fairy Yaoxian. Taishangju's obsession was to save his master. Born in War Spirit Holy Mansion, Taishangju's family was killed by enemies within the mansion right after his birth. If not for the chance encounter with the Red Dust Ancestor, he would have died too, and the Taishang lineage would have been completely eradicated. The Red Dust Ancestor took a liking to him because he was born with a Dao Saint Heart. The Dao Saint Heart is a rare fortune in the Great Dao, allowing effortless comprehension of the Dao, immunity to all evils and invulnerability to all magic. He cultivated under the Red Dust Ancestor for millions of years, reaching the Taiching Golden Immortal Realm before venturing out on his own. He traveled to many places including Ling Mountain. Notably, he encountered the Celestial Buddha before he accepted the Emperor of Eternal Life as his disciple. Guan speculated that this karma might be one reason for the Buddha's protection of the Emperor of Eternal Life. Despite his tragic beginnings, Taishangju had a bold and outgoing nature, always making friends through combat. Regardless of gender, if he wished to befriend someone he first proposed a spar, though never forcing those who refused. He even befriended immortal gods, many of whom sought to ascend to immortality. One celestial god aspired to become the god of destruction. Linking this to the Black Profound Emperor's memories, Guan speculated that the celestial god and the god of destruction might indeed be the same person. Taishangju, now a Miaojin Daluo Immortal, was born earlier than previous reincarnation bodies. His life was even more remarkable than that of the Emperor of Eternal Life, filled with justice and enmity, adored by many daughters of heaven. Yet he was solely devoted to the Tao, saving many worlds and leaving behind legends and myths. However, life's journey was not always smooth. The Celestial Court sought to recruit him into the immortal class, but he refused, even clashing with immortal officials, completely defying celestial rules, incurring the Celestial Court's pursuit. After narrowly escaping death several times, he was attacked by a supreme immortal. As he was about to die, his master, the Red Dust Ancestor, appeared and saved him, though suffering severe injuries and a curse from the heavenly Tao. The master and disciple fled to a mysterious universe. The Red Dust Ancestor sealed himself, instructing that only the legendary eternal fruit could save him. Taishangju was devastated. To him, the Red Dust Ancestor was not just a master but a father. This was his first true setback, deeply affecting him. He changed completely, not immediately seeking the eternal fruit but focusing on cultivation, aiming to reach the Supreme Immortal's realm before re-emerging. Unfortunately, he underestimated the Celestial Court's power. Just as he set foot on the path of the Great Tao, immortal gods pursued him. Guan lowered his eyes, crushed the white jade stone in his hand, feeling the Tao intent left by Taishangju, which would guide him to find the seal of the Red Dust Ancestor. After a while, Sar the novel undershafar. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan slowly stood up. Desperate celestial tomb, it's time to settle this cause and effect. Guan murmured to himself. With his current cultivation level, he could now detect the location of the desperate celestial tomb and sense the curse and evil forces within it. Sin and Fairy Yaoxian had suffered from the karma retribution from the Great Tao of cause and effect, forever barred from the Great Tao. The desperate celestial tomb, a special area within the Great Tao, could accommodate Sin. The grand palace Taishangju built could shield Sin from torment. This was the only thing Taishangju could do. His cultivation level was not enough to counter the Great Tao of cause and effect. Guan couldn't do it now either, but he was gradually able to see through the desperate celestial tomb. He foresaw that once he reached a higher realm, he could resolve the curse on sin and bring sin to Wuxia for cultivation. As for Fairy Yaoxian, still lost to the great Tao of cause and effect, he believed he could trace her through sin. And Lu Qiuxian in the River of Destiny, Guan would find a way to help him escape the path of destiny. These tasks were not troublesome for Guan. They were remnants of his past lives, and through these past lives he became stronger. Next he would wait to live 1,000,000,000,000,000 years. Guan's lips curved upward as he disappeared from the spot. After the Tao court dissolved, the world fell into greater chaos. The 100 great sects scrambled for territory and resources, and all living beings gradually awakened. It turned out that the world's illness did not lie with the Tao court. The major sects of the world did not care what the people thought. They only saw unparalleled opportunities and wanted to compete to become the sole ruler of the world. Even the Qinghuan sect went mad, and the 5 leaders, Yi Qingshan and others, could hardly control it. 1,000 years later, the human world remained in chaos with constant slaughter. In a courtyard within the Qinghuan sect, Yi Qingshan, Lin Xuan, Qingmeng, Gu Changxing, and Gu Qingdao were entertaining an ex-in. The 5 of them had founded the Qinghuan sect, now renowned across the world. Their disposition and mindset had matured, whereas an ex-in seemed younger than them. We are truly old now. Even our juniors no longer listen to us. Qingmeng sighed while pouring tea for an ex-in. The others agreed. The entire Qinghuan sect was eager to expand, placing more value on cultivation resources than the virtues of the righteous Tao. With young talents like Yuan Luo leading the charge, many already sought to force the elders to relinquish power or even step down. Chapter 7:15, Guan turned out to be Zin's master. This fact deeply shocked Yi Qingshan and the other 4, their emotions unable to settle for a long time. It turns out that the master has always been here, secretly supporting them. They were filled with gratitude, and Cheng Meng's tears gushed out uncontrollably. Yi Qingshan took a deep breath. He did not question Zin's words but instead asked, "Can we enter Wuxia to cultivate, serving the old master?" The other 4 snapped back to reality, looking toward an ex-in with anticipation. An ex-in smiled and said, "I can't decide on this matter, I need to ask my master. You should first deal with the Qinghuan sect. Once you enter Wuxia, coming out won't be so easy." Yi Qingshan and the others naturally knew this, and they hurriedly agreed, promising to handle the aftermath of the Qinghuan sect. Meanwhile, inside Wuxia Taoist field, Guan was picking mature medicinal herbs, the ghost mother of ephemera following behind. Suddenly, a series of prompts appeared in front of Guan. Frowny face, your lifespan has broken through for the first time to 100 trillion years, beginning random upgrades of lifespan function. Your lifespan barrier function upgraded, lifespan barrier upgraded successfully. Lifespan barrier, consume lifespan to activate lifespan barrier. It can block all prying, perception, and deduction. The consumed lifespan is determined based on your cultivation aura and the required spiritual energy. The range of the lifespan barrier can be freely manipulated. As expected, it was an upgrade of function. Upgrading to lifespan barrier is indeed a good thing. Guan had long felt the lifespan barrier was too small. He wondered how large the new lifespan barrier could be and how much lifespan it would consume. The most important thing is, he can prepare to break through. Guan didn't stop what he was doing, continuing to pick medicinal herbs, only stopping after he finished harvesting all the herbs in this medicine garden. Search * the novel, F.I.R. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. All picked medicinal herbs were collected by the ghost mother of ephemera. Seeing him finished, the ghost mother of ephemera couldn't help but remark, "Master, what I most admire about you is your perseverance. Whether it's writing, painting, or picking medicinal herbs, you can persist for so many years. Watching you pick herbs, I feel every move contains profound meaning, embodying the principles of the great Tao." Guan couldn't help but laugh and said, "Your ability to flatter has reached the transformation realm." "I wasn't flattering, I truly think so," the ghost mother of ephemera said earnestly. After over 1,000,000 years together, she knew Guan was not a stern person, so she dared to speak her mind with him. Chapter 7:16, breakthrough to Xian Qi primordial immortal Gu and fumbled around the lifespan barrier at the original spot, eventually expanding the barrier to cover an area equivalent to that of the 9-spirit continent. He called up his attribute panel and invested 100 billion years of lifespan into his physique. Using 400 billion years of lifespan, the primordial reincarnation undying body upgraded to the primordial Tao creation body, but even 1,000 billion years wouldn't be enough for the next advancement. This time, he didn't plan to enhance himself comprehensively but instead focused entirely on his cultivation level. The reason for upgrading his physique was to observe how quickly the lifespan barrier now consumed lifespan. Numerous prompts quickly appeared before his eyes. The 100 billion years of lifespan did not upgrade his physique. Since he already invested in it, he had to succeed. Guwen continued to invest lifespan, putting in increments of 100 billion years each time. This investment turned out to be much greater than he anticipated, rapidly surpassing 1 trillion years, making him somewhat regretful. The leap was too significant. From 400 billion years of lifespan to 1 trillion years of lifespan. Guwen suddenly felt that even 1 quadrillion years of lifespan wasn't that much. Eventually, the primordial Tao creation body transformed into the primordial infinite creation Tao body, totaling 5 trillion years of lifespan consumed. From 400 billion years to 5 trillion years, an increase of over 100 times. Just for the addition of infinite? Guwen took a deep breath, and the Tao spirit chi of the supreme origin forest began to surge violently into his body. He fixed his gaze on the lifespan barrier, watching the lifespan numbers flash by rapidly. Though faster, the consumption was still within an acceptable range. Before long, numerous Tao insights penetrated his mind, forcing his consciousness to sink into the comprehension of the Tao. The lifespan barrier extracted Tao spirit chi from the supreme origin forest, causing various phenomena to manifest. Tao spirit winds howling through each source tree, while the blue chi sea below surged ever more intensely. An hour later, Guwen successfully transformed into the primordial infinite creation Tao body. He opened his eyes to find the supreme origin forest still in turmoil, with countless blue stars swirling around each source tree, illuminating the entire world. Not seeing other beings, he focused on the lifespan consumption of the barrier. 3,000 billion years of lifespan. Still acceptable. He now had 940 trillion years of lifespan remaining, though inexplicably, he felt a slight sense of crunch. Taking a deep breath and clearing his mind, he began to invest lifespan into his cultivation level. Starting with 10 trillion years. You have cultivated through chi absorption for 100 billion years, you forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation, but failed to withstand the primordial 9 yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed. You have cultivated through chi absorption for 200 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation, but failed to withstand the primordial 9 yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed. 100 billion years each time. Good heavens. Earlier, advancing to Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal only required 20 billion years each time, highlighting the vast difference between Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal and Primordial Tao Fruit. Though this difference created pressure, it also heightened Guan's anticipation. Previously, breaking through the major realm consumed 23 trillion years of lifespan, this time it should succeed within 50 trillion years lifespan. Calculating the prompts before him, Guan's heart raced. Ultimately, even investing 10 trillion years of lifespan each time failed to succeed. Guan remained calm and continued investing lifespan, still putting in 10 trillion years each time. The phenomena in Supreme Origin Forest were calming down, with the giant source trees radiating various shades of silver-blue light, making the whole world seem magical. After a while, Guan's expression began to turn grim. Even investing 100 trillion years lifespan failed to break through. Clearly, it was impossible to reach the perfection realm for the next major realm this time. No matter what, achieving the next major realm first was a must. A determined look in Guan's eyes, he continued investing lifespan. However, the next 10 trillion years lifespan also failed to see success. He started to imagine the terror of the primordial 9 yang great celestial tribulation. Someday he would have Yang Jian and Li Xuanmiao investigate this tribulation in the celestial court, to understand the difficulty of the tribulation he was crossing. After a while, Guan's investment in his cultivation level surpassed 40 trillion years lifespan but still no success. He continued to invest.